Hello and welcome to Tales from the Backlog, a gaming deep dive podcast. I'm your host, Dave Jackson, he, him.
I'm Rebekah Valentine, she, her.
And today we'll be covering Golden Sun on the podcast. But first, if this is your first time listening, I want to thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you being here. Here's the spoiler policy. We're not going to spoil the story of Golden Sun for quite some time. You can check down in the show notes. As always, this is how every episode works. Check in the show notes for a timestamp for when spoilers begin. Until that point, you're safe. We're also going to hold off on spoiling too much, I would say, about the second half of this game, which is the sequel. We may talk a little bit in the spoiler section, but we won't spoil what's going on in that game either. So with that being said, I also want to say Golden Sun is on the podcast because it was the winner of one of my monthly Patreon polls. So I want to thank Chris Nelson for submitting it, and I want to thank everyone else who voted in the poll. Appreciate you all very much. Now,
do you?
I do. Genuinely, I appreciate it. And my guest for today, as you've heard, is Rebekah Valentine. She's a returning guest, I think third time on the show now. She's an investigative journalist at Kotaku and an environmental magic adept. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I love this show. I'm glad to be back. For probably the most influential game on my personal life. So.
Let's go. Yeah, last time you were here, we had Heaven's Vault, which was a game both of us really love.
Yeah.
And the one before that was Mother 3, another Game Boy Advance RPG. So we're back with Golden Sun, and you jumped at the chance to talk about this one. So I appreciate having you here.
Yeah, I will not shut up about Golden Sun, even though, as we will get to, I understand it's not a perfect game. I know.
So the game, again, it is Golden Sun. It's an RPG developed by Camelot Software Planning and published by Nintendo for the Game Boy Advance in 2001. The primary credits for the game, of course, there's more people than just these folks, but the primary credits, the director was Shugo Takahashi, producers Shinji Hatano, Hiroyuki Takahashi, and Shugo Takahashi again, artist Fumuhide Aoki, writer Hiroyuki Takahashi, and a composing credit to Motoi Sakuraba.
Who you might know from Dark Souls fame, from Batten Kaitos, from so many things. And this is one of his best guys.
Yeah, I've come to associate a very particular type of sound with Sakuraba from all my Dark Souls playthroughs. So this was definitely an interesting one to hear a different type of music from him, we'll say.
Sakuraba's really fascinating. In my brain, he has like 3 different types of music that he does. One is like the Dark Souls style, one is this, like Golden Sun, and the other one is sort of the thing he does at Batten Kaitos. He does like some really interesting like electronic stuff.
Okay.
His individual albums are really cool. Like he's just a very interesting composer. I do think he can be very hit or miss. I think Golden Sun is a hit. I think Batten Kaitos is a hit. But sometimes you'll hear a soundtrack that sounds sort of like one of those that he's done, but like worse. And it just feels it feels very much like he phoned it in, and I don't understand why. I'm trying to think of an example. I think there's a Tales game that he did that is just like, there's like one song that sounds like the sailing music from Golden Sun: The Lost Age, but worse. And it's very odd. But when he hits, and dang, this game's got good music.
Yeah, it does. We'll definitely spend some time digging into the soundtrack a little bit as we go. But yeah, a name that I recognize there for the music. So elevator pitch time. If people don't know what Golden Sun is, we have our quick pitches per usual. My quick pitch is Golden Sun is exactly one half of what might be your favorite handheld RPG. Take that however you'd like. Reb, what would you say?
I like your elevator pitch better than mine. I wrote too much. It's a turn-based RPG about a group of heroes saving the world. It's got a really unique magic and class system, gorgeous art and music, and an immediate sequel that massively expands the adventure.
It's a long elevator. Yeah, that definitely describes it. Yeah, we'll talk about the kind of the other half of it too. We'll make some time to chat about what that means for this game, and then what that means for like people who might want to play it later on. This game itself, I played on the Nintendo Switch Online version. It took 23 hours to beat. How about you?
I also played on Nintendo Switch Online. I took, I think I should check my hour count exactly, but it was around 20 hours. I have beaten this game probably about 10 times.
Yeah.
So I burned through it pretty quick. That was 20 hours with all Djinn collected. So
Okay.
a little bit of extra side quest time. I did not go fight the secret boss. I did collect the Djinn that was down there.
Okay, cool. Well, let's get into it. You said you played the game a bunch of times, so we always start by talking about our histories with the game. Both of us have a longer history than just this playthrough for the podcast here. So why don't you tell the people about your history with Golden Sun?
Yeah, so I first saw this game advertised in a Nintendo Power Advance. This was around Christmas time, 2000. This game came out in 02, right? So, or no, 01.
01, yeah.
So it would have been Christmas 2000, right before the start of, oh no. Anyway, whatever. It was Christmas. I was a kid. It had come out that year, and I had the Nintendo Power Advance because I had Mario Kart Super Circuit, and it had a guide for that in there, and it also had a guide for Golden Sun. And I locked onto this game. The official character art for Golden Sun is so cool, especially if you think of like a 10, 11-year-old who's just getting into like fantasy adventure kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Look up some of the official character art. They did like these cool, remember when companies used to put like backgrounds, like official like desktop backgrounds on their web pages as downloads, and that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Golden Sun had some fantastic ones, and I just was really drawn in by that art, and I started reading through this strategy guide for this game I did not own, and I got obsessed with it. So I asked for it for my birthday, which was in January, so right after, and I got it. It showed up at my house, or my dad brought it home, and it was broken. The save file was not the save. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't save. So I had to call the Nintendo hotline, mail it into Nintendo, and get it back 4 weeks later, during which time my friend heard me talk about it so much she bought it, and she started playing through without me, and I was so upset. But yeah, I played it and I really loved it. And it's funny because my memories of that time are fuzzy enough that I don't necessarily remember what it was at the time that I liked so much of that game. But I do think part of the experience for me is that I joined this Golden Sun fan forum at the time. I was like 11, 12 years old. And that became my social life for the majority of my adolescence. I made a bunch of friends on this forum. I ended up becoming a mod and had like basically a primitive community management role when I was a teenager, which I definitely should not have, to be clear. Like we all had these moments on like the early internet where we were like, I guess that's like not the early internet, it's like the mid internet, but like we all had those moments where we're like, I am way too in deep with this group of people I do not know, but also we're having fun. I don't know. But yeah, that forum became so much of my personality and was so formative for me and the people I met. I'm still in touch with a bunch of them. I went to one of their weddings in England a few years ago. It was incredible. Awesome. I invited a bunch of them to my wedding. Like it was just so impactful to me. And even though that was like a group of people having different social interactions, it was all sort of surrounded by the game Golden Sun. I participated in like text-based role-playing based on Golden Sun. I made OCs. Like I drew a bunch of terrible fan art. Like it was so much of the universe surrounding the fandom of this game, which the fandom of Golden Sun is not very big, but it did exist. And, the Lost Age came out, and then we sat around and waited for a third game for years and years, and we finally got it. It was garbage. But yeah, like that was that game to me more so than the game itself. And so I recognize that skews my perspective on the game. But throughout that time, I played the game so many times as a part of that, and I learned so much about it. And I connected with the community so much that it's just sort of become ingrained in me in this weird way. And so I think it's very hard for me to have like a more, no one's opinion on something is objective, but I guess a more distanced perspective on it. But I also do like genuinely think it's quite good, or at least a setup for something quite good. And like even now when I played it through again, I know some of those feelings were probably like tied up in my adolescence and my nostalgia, but I also had fun. Like I just kind of like being Isaac and running around and finding Djinn and doing magic. Like it's cool.
Yeah, I actually, in this weird time where like I've recorded an episode about Ocarina of Time that's going to come out like 3-4 weeks after this Golden Sun podcast releases. And I talked about that same type of thing. Yeah. Where like Ocarina of Time means so much to me that I'm kind of not even going to really pretend to zoom way out and give that perspective. Like I just don't, I don't want to deny myself that like nostalgic favorite. I think that that's something special, and a lot of
Yeah.
people have that game that means that much to them. So perfectly fine. And that story is great. Like the fact that you maintain contact with so many of those people
Yeah.
for so long is awesome.
Yeah. I think if you trace, so I write at Kotaku now, I think you could trace my current career back to Golden Sun, because that's what got me really on the internet. That's what got me writing a lot on the internet. I wasn't necessarily doing journalism, but I was doing like community management and learning how to talk to people and ask them
Hmm.
questions and solve their problems. And, I think that probably experiences I had them were formative for me being really passionate about unionization too. Like it all, and then talking about video games online with other people and having opinions and sharing those discussions, and then eventually like getting more and more into gaming. And like I think all of those lines draw all the way to what I'm doing now, and that feels really cool.
Hell yeah. All roads lead to talking about Golden Sun on Tales from the Backlog.
Yes.
um, my history with Golden Sun is I played Camelot's Mario Golf and Tennis RPGs on the Game Boy Color, and then I think I played one on a Game Boy. I remember importing a Mario Tennis character on either the N64 or the GameCube version from the handheld version, just like dominating with that character. So I played the Camelot sports RPGs, and I loved those games. And then I got Golden Sun when it came out, and I really remember enjoying it when I played it back then. I didn't finish it. I remember being lost, and I remember struggling with something about what to do or how to do it, and I just kind of quit. But also, like I was 13 when this game came out. I didn't finish RPGs not named Pokemon when I was 13, so I didn't finish Final Fantasy VI back when I played it back then either. Like,
Yeah.
and I love that game. So it's not really an indication of like any sort of quality, but I did love it back then. And that's where my history ends. It's not quite as involved as yours. But
I
this
am
is
going to
always,
file away that you struggled with like figuring something out later
yeah,
on when you tell me what you think of the puzzles now. I'm
right.
just putting
Well,
that in a box here.
not necessarily the like I'm looking at a puzzle and don't know what to do, more like I don't know where I'm supposed to be
Nowhere
going
to
type
go,
of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it
I
can be.
remember wandering around a lot. That's kind of my
Yeah, there's
prevailing memory.
some of that, yeah.
But I did like it. I thought it was a cool game. And now it has always been a game that I've like been like it would be cool to revisit. I like revisiting childhood favorites. And now we got the Patreon vote, got it on the show, and I'm not happy to say I don't like this game really at all.
Oh.
It's a real bummer to play something that I enjoyed when I was younger and be like, man, I don't know what I was thinking. Or just I hadn't played a lot of other games that I think do this type of thing better, whatever it was. So like my kind of top level read is like twofold. Number one, I think it can be like a really chill RPG that's not going to like demand a ton of you in any direction really. Combat can get kind of hard, but like other than that, it's not gonna be a story that challenges you. It's not gonna be puzzles that challenge you, stuff like that. But I just found this to be really dull, mostly like, and mostly, I was thinking about this. This is a type of game, a type of RPG where like combat being kind of dull for like your random encounters and stuff, that's kind of part of the territory. Like that Golden Sun is far from alone in being that way. And so that's not something that bothers me because like every Super Nintendo Final Fantasy game is like that too. And I love those games. Like that's not unique. I think what it is I found the characters to be to do almost nothing for me. I found the plot to do nothing for me. And if those things are failing for me, then I don't think this type of RPG really works for me. So like times that I enjoyed this were when combat was hard and when the music was kicking ass, which it does kick ass pretty often. And I think it's a good looking game, but other than that, like we'll talk about it. There is like the second half of the story and the sequel and stuff. I'm really not interested in playing it before talking about it with you here. I just didn't like this at all. It sucks. It sucks to say that is what I mean by that.
No, it's okay. I do think like because this is not the first time I've talked about Golden Sun with people who are either playing it for the first time or who are just generally like a little more down on it.
Hmm.
And I do like think doing that and then revisiting it, like I see where it doesn't work, right? Like you're correct. The plot, if you just take Golden Sun by itself, the plot, it's a nothing plot. It's a do the four elemental MacGuffins and save the world, right? Like we've seen that a million times, and there are many games that do that very well. But they're usually carried by having a really interesting cast of characters. And you don't have that. You have like a silent protagonist, you have his best friend, you have the kind of quiet guy, and then you have the girl. And that's the party. Great, good job. It's just it doesn't do much of that. I think for me, what I love about this game is the world that it is set in and sort of the mystery that exists on the corners of it. I think that the NPC writing and a lot of the dialogue that you get from like just sort of poking around in corners and mind reading, or like the environmental storytelling even, it suggests there's so much more to this world than there is in front of you. And I really like that because it turns out there is a whole lot more to that world, as we'll see in the second game. And so that curiosity does eventually get rewarded. But I feel like having that outside world in their brains when they were making this had them do a really good job of like creating this world that felt inhabited and interesting and curious with all these like interesting little encounters. I like the battle system. Again, it's very hard for me to separate the battle system from 1 and 2. It's the same system, but it gets much more complex in the Lost Age, and also like adds more pressure to actually engage with it. The Djinn system is a really interesting system for like changing classes and changing the kinds of magic that you use. And you can engage with it in Golden Sun and do really cool things with it if you're motivated, but you absolutely don't have to. I didn't even when I first played through this game. I kept everybody with their regular old same elemental Djinn, except when I did Colosso, when I equipped Isaac with all the Jupiter Djinn, because that was to me the strongest build that I could do. So like, it is very much a setup for something else. And I think if you're just going into it wanting Golden Sun to be all there is, then it really kind of falls short. But if you know what's coming, or if you're open to there being more, I think this is a wonderful introduction to a really cool, nice to look at on the Game Boy Advance, oh my god, and beautiful to listen to world that you want to spend more time in, even if the people you're hanging out with are kind of like, whatever.
You want to just like touch on that, like the fact that this is basically half of the game? Like
so Golden Sun
go ahead.
Golden Sun is a sequel. It's called Golden Sun: The Lost Age, that came out, what do we say, in 2002 in Japan and 2003 in the US. So basically just a year after. Like it was a very quick sequel. And the reason why, from what I understand, is that so Golden Sun was originally a Nintendo 64 game. And it was originally supposed to be one real big game. But then when they switched very early on in development to Game Boy Advance, they weren't able to fit it all on one cartridge. So they split it in half. So Golden Sun it's supposed to be the first half of that game. I would really say it's like the first third, because The Lost Age is huge. And The Lost Age is the immediate follow-up. And we'll get into like some of the plot of The Lost Age later. But the thing about The Lost Age is it opens up Golden Sun so much. It shows you the entire rest of the world apart. So Golden Sun takes place on 2 continents, Angara and Gondwan. The Lost Age takes place literally everywhere else. Like the whole rest of the world, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 continents and some islands. You get like a ship and you sail around in it. You get an airship at one point, kind of. There are new characters that you play as that you don't play as in the first game, and they have a different perspective on things. And I don't think the writing is significantly better, but I do think it has some more personality. Like it improves somewhat. And your perspective on the story and on the mission change. And I think the way that it opens up, the way the combat opens up, because a lot of the fights are harder, you get access to more summons and more different kinds of Djinn and more different kinds of combinations. It also forces you into positions where you have to use different classes. And the way that the world opens up, the combat opens up, and the story opens up, I think really makes clear what Golden Sun was setting up. But if you just stop at the end of Golden Sun, I mean, Golden Sun is 20 hours long-ish. I'm never going to tell somebody, oh, it gets good 20 hours in. Like that sucks, man.
This is also the genre for that.
It is the genre for that, but like, I don't engage with that personally. Like, this is why I've never seen Parks and Rec all the way through, because everyone tells me, oh, it gets good in season 3. I ain't watching all that. Are you kidding me? So like, I get it. I fully get it why people would stop short and just say, this isn't for me. But I do think, and again, it's just so difficult to tear it apart in my brain from my nostalgia, but also from what I know is coming in the Lost Age. But I do think that you can see Golden Sun as a good setup and baseline for the real RPG, which is the Lost Age.
Yeah, it's interesting. I knew that this topic was going to come up at like several other points in the conversation. So like to get this out at the beginning of the podcast as much as we can. It's interesting. This is really the only game that I've played and talked about that, like, I've played other things that are part of multiple part series or like planned series or something like that. Like I was thinking about this with the Final Fantasy VII remake, something that was always planned to be multiple parts, and how Final Fantasy VII remake, the first game, has its own like story arc that wraps up and then puts you like, you take one step in the next direction, and that's where Rebirth picks up. And so it has its own thing, and it doesn't come with the qualifier that it is unfinished per se. Like, of course, the story is not done, but it's more like sequels coming rather than like you didn't experience what they had for you.
For what it's worth, Golden Sun was like that at the time. Like, we did find out there was going to be a sequel pretty quick after.
Right. But kind of what I mean by that is like, when you played the first game, it had a satisfying story arc of its own that wraps up. And then you know that they're going to continue on with the story in the sequel, but I'm also satisfied with what I played in the first part.
You've had like an emotional catharsis.
Yeah. In this game, like, it has like a climax at the end of it, but I was so checked out of the story by the time I got to it that I just like didn't really care about it.
Right.
And it was just interesting that this is the only one, anytime I've like talked about a game that's like part 1 of a series or part 1 of 2 or something like that, where people are like, you have to play the second part. This game almost shouldn't exist on its own.
Yeah.
But it does. And so we're in this point where like, I acknowledge the things that you say about how the second game improves on it. But it's interesting that this is like probably the most extreme example of like the first game probably can't stand on its own or shouldn't stand on its own that I hear out there.
Yeah, I very much agree with it shouldn't. I think of them in my head as a package. I don't ever want them to make a fourth game at this point. I think that ship has sailed, but I want them to do some sort of like nice like HD 2D style remake of the two games together as one story. And just to clarify, I'm not going to get into story spoilers for either game here, but this really is like The Lost Age picks up exactly where one left off. Like the very end of one, and then you just immediately keep going, and it's what happens to the characters immediately after. The premise is 4 elemental MacGuffins. You do 2 in the first game and 2 in the second game. Like that is just it is a game that has been cut in half. And it's very, I don't think I realized until I had to go on podcasts and justify this game how weird that was. Until I had to go on a podcast and justify this game. It is actually very weird.
Yep. And that's one of the things that I noticed about that cutoff point is it doesn't wrap up neatly and then set up part 2. It is just sliced in half, basically. So we'll probably talk about, we'll definitely talk about the second game a little bit more as we go, but I wanted to just kind of give a couple minutes to talk about the fact that this is kind of half of the game. But it is, and it's weird. I liked the first game when I was a kid, didn't buy the second one. I'm not even sure I knew that it came out. I was a teenager. Who knows what I was thinking at the time. I was probably playing Morrowind for, 12 hours a day. So, we'll talk about that more. And in the spoiler section, I do have some like specific questions about like, here are things that I felt unfulfilled by in this game. Does the second game pick these back up? Kind of feel like the answer is probably yes, but we'll get there.
I think it's like half yes, half no, probably. Like we can talk about this later, but I am probably not going to recommend that you play The Lost Age, given that you did not like Golden Sun. But maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get there. For now, we'll take our first music break of the episode, and we'll come back, and it's time to talk about Golden Sun, the first game. In Golden Sun, you play as Isaac, who is a silent protagonist. Isaac grows up in the mountain village of Vale. His village are the keepers of a type of magic called alchemy, keepers of the secret of how to access it and release it. And they're keeping the secret to make sure that it stays a secret. That's why you keep secrets, I suppose. At the beginning of the game, I thought the prologue of this was really interesting. It starts with a big thunderstorm, rock slide, flood, natural disaster that comes from this nearby volcano that destroys a lot of the town. A bunch of people die, including Isaac's father and his friend that he grew up with, Jenna. Her brother Felix dies in this opening thing,
and her parents.
Yeah, I was gonna say tragedy as the big story hook is it's the idyllic starting RPG town.
Yeah.
They're the keepers of this secret, but they're pretty decimated by this disaster at the beginning of the game. And I thought that was a great hook at the start.
Yeah. I love the opening. I think it's really intense. I also it sets up the main antagonists of this game in this wonderful way. You go through the village of Vale and you sort of see all the things that are happening. You watch this devastation. You watch these people that are your main character's friends and loved ones swept away by this boulder that's falling. You get to see it does a really good job of setting up the scene. I think you get to see Synergy, the game's magic system in action, both with your mom using this utility synergy to pick up your cloak off the wall and take it down for you. So you get this visual tutorial of what that's going to do, but then you also see a little bit of combat synergy going on with everybody trying to stop the boulder from falling down the hill and with a couple monster encounters. It's a really good setup. And then you also meet the villains, who you don't know who they are at the moment, a mystery man and a mystery woman, who seem to be tied to the horrible tragedy that's happening somehow. They kick your butt and leave you in the dust.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first time you see them, they're just kind of hanging out and you can't reach them. But their character models are so different from everyone else's that you see them and you're like, they're not. They're
they
bad
got
news.
Big RPG energy.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So we'll talk about them now because as the story progresses, 3 years later is when the story picks up. Isaac and Jenna and another friend named Garrett join their kind of mentor character named Creighton, who's researching the mountain's magical secrets, wants to learn more about alchemy. So you solve some puzzles that were hiding the secret. They're very easy puzzles. It makes me wonder why no one else could solve them before you.
Yeah, it's a little comical. Yeah, I think it's because they're banned. There's a man who's sort of standing there who keeps you from going in, but not very effectively. He says, don't go in here, and then he walks around the corner and you just walk right past him.
I got my eye on you kids, and then immediately takes his eye off of him. Yeah.
But I mean, it is. It's an introductory dungeon, all right? Cut him some slack.
No, it's mostly a joke, but you go inside. Isaac and company find these 4 elemental stones inside, but once you're in there, it's kind of the classic those 2 RPG antagonist-looking characters, they couldn't solve the puzzle, but you did it for them. So now they're inside, and they kind of coerce you into saving some details for later, but they kind of coerce you into giving them the stones. And that's bad news.
Yeah. They also have some other people with them.
They do.
When they do this. One of them is Alex, who is this blue-haired, quintessential mystery man. I just love this guy. What a mess. He's very important in The Lost Age, but don't worry about him now. He's just sort of their mysterious friend going, I know things you don't, like that sort of
Yep.
thing. He can teleport. He seems to be able to fly, like all sorts of weird powers.
Hmm.
And then they have another person with him, with them, this mystery man
Yep.
wearing a mask. Who could this be? And midway through this encounter, where they kind of manipulate you into handing over these elemental rocks, he reveals himself as Jenna's lost brother, Felix, who we
Yep.
thought died in the storm. So, like, 5 minutes after we think this guy has died, we find out he's actually alive, but he's working for the bad guys.
Yes.
Why?
And the bad guys, their names are Saturos and Minardi. And so we'll talk about them more and more as we go. But the basic kind of setup that puts you out on the adventure is they coerce you into giving up the stones. You give up 3 of them. You manage to keep 1 of them. And then the mountain kind of goes nuts. You escape. And then your goal is to stop them. Their plan is they're going to go to these 4 lighthouses around the world, activate the lighthouses using these stones, I think. And that's going to bring alchemy back to the world. And that's what we grew up seeking to prevent. So that's the game is the chase after them to try and beat them to these lighthouses. And so you do 2 in this game, like you said, 2 in the next game. And I got to say, like, up until this point, because I liked the part where you're inside and your master Kraden, who was like old wise guy. Once he's inside, he kind of gets a little drunk with the power that he's found in there. I thought that was nice. Like, up until this point, I was in on the, like, I really liked what this game's story was setting up. And then like, as we go, I just got less and less and less invested in it as we went. But I do think this game starts really strong. And one of the things that's interesting about this, as far as like an RPG starting strong, you don't fight anyone really in this opening sequence. Like, there's not many random encounters to fight. There's not like a big boss that you fight, as far as I remember, like, especially during that prologue. You just kind of get your ass kicked by Saturos and Minardi, but it's all like story intrigue that sets this up, which sets up like how far down I came, because I was so in at the beginning of this game.
I think this is a really funny opinion, because I actually think a lot of people, maybe it's people who have played this game too much, but I think a lot of people actually hate the opening. Not necessarily for anything you're saying, but I think they hate the opening because everyone talks too dang much.
Well, that's Golden Sun.
That is the whole game, but the opening segment is really, really bad for it. Like it is so full of dialogue. I believe speedruns of Golden Sun deliberately omit everything before you leave Vale, because it is mostly dialogue and there's just no reason to like try to race through. I'm very serious. I think this is a thing. But yeah, I think that the opening setup is really cool, and it sets up a lot of things that this is going to be important later, and sometimes later is all the way in the Lost Age. But the person who charges you with saving the world is the elders of the town, sure, but also this floating spherical rock with a giant eye in it, known as the Wise One. That's pretty freaky. Jenna and Kraden get kidnapped by Saturos and Minardi and taken with them as hostages, along with Felix, who is aiding them for some reason we don't know. And then Alex, Mr. Mystery Guy, sort of recognizes at the end that you still have the 4th elemental star that they don't have, because there's a cave-in that's happening and they can't get to you to get it. And so you are holding the Mars, the fire elemental star, and you keep it in your bag and it stays in your inventory the whole game. Keep that in mind. That's information that'll help us later. Actually, it won't. We won't talk about the ending of the Lost Age here, but but there's a lot of really cool setup here and a lot of like fun mystery that I think is established in this introductory section. And yeah, there's a lot of dialogue, but if you've never read it before, I think it's probably more interesting than if you have. Also, fun little tidbit. When the elder of the town asks you if you'll be responsible for the fate of the world, you can say no. And if you say no to him, I think it's 3 times, the game will just end.
Hell yeah. That's funny. So you mentioned something this is one of my like criticisms of like why I had a hard time getting on with the story. I think the dialogue in this game is super dull when your party's involved. Like I agree with what you said earlier. Talking to NPCs in town just to get like flavor text is usually worth it, I thought.
Yeah.
Like I did talk to everyone throughout the game. Anytime there's a big story cutscene where everyone, your party fans out and you talk to a group of people.
Yes.
This is a big offender for me of 2 things that I don't like in video game writing. Number 1 is you have 4 people in your party and they all feel like they have to talk in every every new bit of information, all 4 people have to react to it.
Yes.
And the other thing is they do a ton of like restating information. Like
Yes.
someone will say, this was my plan. And the other person will go, oh, so that was your plan. And then the third person will go, so what you're saying is that was your plan. And it's like, it was really, really rough. Like the pacing of the game to me, again, this is a genre not known for brisk pacing. It's like Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger are famous for their pacing in a bunch of other games that don't have good pacing. Golden Sun has glacial pacing, partly because of this dialogue stuff, I think.
No, I'm not even going to try to defend Golden Sun's dialogue. It is not good. I will defend the NPC dialogue and the world building. I think all the flavor text is really good and interesting for the most part. I think like, especially as it like, anyway, I think all that's really good. I think the story text is really boring. To sort of highlight this, we'll get to it in a minute, but so at this point you only have 2 people in your party, Isaac and Garrett, because Jen has been kidnapped. You will get 2 more party members later. There is a point before you've gotten the 4th party member where you're sort of, there's 2 paths you can take, and if you're playing the game for the first time, you probably don't know that there's an alternate route you can take. But you can actually get your 4th party member early and then come back and do a section that you normally wouldn't do with that 4th party member. And if you do that, she is totally useless, but they just add her to all the cutscenes with basically what you're describing. Like anytime anyone reacts to something, she is in the conversation with like the 4th reaction that has been inserted. But that's like it. That's the only change that there is, apart from like the mechanical change of having her in your party. Like it's just totally worthless. So it is very much that. It is unfortunate. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's Golden Sun.
I also I meant to say this earlier. I don't mean to like put you in the position of needing to like be the defender of Golden Sun. Like,
no, I'm just gonna do that though.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, not that that's why you're here per se. So yeah, this is one of those things that like I can enjoy an RPG that has a pretty like limited or basic combat system. I enjoy lots of those. I can enjoy an RPG where like the story is tropish or kind of, standard for fantasy RPG type stuff. But I think I need something between like the story, the world building, and your party characters, or like your protagonist or something like that. I need like a combination of several of those to pick up the other stuff. Yeah. And in this game, I think the main party sucks. Like they're all super boring characters.
Really boring.
And this is a game where I could have used a strong protagonist to carry forward. And I've been thinking about silent protagonists because I just recorded an episode about Dragon Quest XI recently. Like that's silent protagonists all the way through that series. Isaac is a silent protagonist here. And I wanted to get your take on this. Like, I'm pretty mixed on silent protagonists, but I do like some, and there's some that I don't like, and it's hard for me to pin down rules as to why they work and when they don't. Isaac does not work for me. What do you think about Isaac, first of all? But then also, like, is there a thing about a silent protagonist in the way that it like can work?
Okay. Ask me this question again in the second half when we get into the spoiler discussion.
Okay.
Also, my non-spoiler commentary on this is I agree with you that Isaac isn't really doing much in this game. And I think I actually agreed with you back when this game came out as well. Like I did not feel much for any of these characters. I was 11. I liked Mia because she was the girl and because there was a cool desktop wallpaper for using cool water magic. That's why, that's what I liked about this game. I like their costumes and their character art. Like that was all I cared about back then. Yeah, they're not exciting. I think a silent protagonist, I like Link in Breath of the Wild. I think because he's not like fully silent, right? Like you get a little bit of character in his responses because when you're responding to other characters, there's a couple options you can choose from. And maybe the options don't actually matter, like from like a gameplay perspective, like whatever you respond is the story's going to proceed the same way, but they still, because they're like unique little quips, they add to his personality and you get a sense that Link is not silent. He's just kind of a quiet guy with like, he's a little awkward, but sort of a funny, like a little sense of humor too. Like, and that really fills him out. And I kind of love that. Isaac just has yes and no. And with the exception of that one instance that I mentioned there at the beginning of the game, your yes and no matter not at all in the whole rest of the game, because you're sometimes given like dialogue options and just like none of them matter. Anytime Isaac is given personality, it's because other people are making comments about him. Anytime there's a scenario where they're introducing the party, someone else introduces him for him. Like it is very, very weird. And I don't know. I think silent protagonists are so based on how much amount of agency they're given over their responses and also how other characters react to them. I think that's why Chrono and Chrono Trigger works, because characters react to him in very specific ways that give you a glimpse of what his personality is. Generally, I think outside of that, the way silent protagonists work is if it's a self-insert, and Isaac is not supposed to be a self-insert. So there was like this weird era, right, of RPGs where they were making like specific characters that were not supposed to be self-inserts, but at the same time, they were keeping them silent because they wanted you to be able to imagine yourself as them. Right. And I think sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And I agree with you that it doesn't work in Golden Sun. And honestly, I don't think it works in the Lost Age either, but there is a big asterisk on this that I will get to in the second half.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was thinking about this again, talking about Dragon Quest a lot recently. In Dragon Quest, protagonists are self-insert protagonists. Like Dragon Quest 11, the hero has a personality. The hero emotes like Link does. Like they may not say stuff, but they make facial expressions. You know what's going on in there, even if it's a golden retriever in there. Like you know what's going on. It's interesting. I don't think Chrono is good as a silent protagonist. I wish Chrono was just a character. I don't, but it's that thing where it's like, kind of is a character, kind of not, leaving room for me to self-insert, but I don't. So then it's just like this, missing half of the character. I think the thing that, we talked about Mother 3 on the show a couple years ago. Those games have silent protagonists, and it works because everything around them's fucking insane. Like the world, the characters, everyone's insane, and they're little kids. Like no one listens to little kids anyway, so their adults are just talking. Or in Dragon Quest 11, your party characters are all weirdos, and they carry the load of storytelling and just being like loud personalities and stuff. So you can kind of sit back and just kind of be like, the quote, the straight man with all these crazy people around you. Let Sylvando do his thing, and I'm just going to hang back here. And in Golden Sun, it's just those other characters. I couldn't tell you a single thing about Ivan other than there seems to be something more to him that Golden Sun 1 is not giving to me. But other than that, I don't know anything really about him as a character. Maybe he's like a little shy, but he can't have a whole RPG based around that. So
I did have two other thoughts on this just now. One is that, like, because you were talking about other ways that silent protagonists work for you, and I realized that one that I didn't mention is some games do a really good job of giving, when you as the player character examine things, they'll give you like something in that's written in a personality, right? So Undertale is an incredible example of this. Like everything, all of the dialogue that you're getting is written in a particular personality. And that's a whole different discussion as to who's actually giving that dialogue. Don't at me about that. but like that adds a personality to the silent protagonist that is interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I do think Golden Sun has that sometimes. There are like a couple very memorable interactions that you can get if you just go up as Isaac and examine things, and you're getting basically his thoughts and observations about the world around him. And that stuff exists, but I do think it's like kind of few and far between. There's not, a ton of examinable stuff with text involved in Golden Sun. And so that's kind of not really there. And the other thing that I don't really think helps Isaac, but that I do think is good about Golden Sun is I like the emotes of this game. I love that everyone's voices are these like sort of little chipmunky weird sounds on the Game Boy Advance. I love that because, it's too small. It's a Game Boy Advance to have facial expressions. They get these little bubbles over their heads with like a sweat drop or a heart or a sad face when something happens. Or you'll see their models, these little models, they'll like shake if they're nervous, or they'll, spread their arms out or do like other things. And I think those are very cute and add a lot of personality that otherwise would not be there. Again, I don't think it saves this cast, but it would be way worse without that. And I think it was a clever idea.
Yeah. Without that, there there would really be nothing to
Mm-mm.
give them personality. So I can kind of take or leave the chipmunk sound effect, but like I don't hate it, but it's not going to be something that carries it, I guess. But
No,
yeah,
I just like it. I think it's unique. It's
yeah,
fun.
that's fair. So the story in Golden Sun is the main thing that I found just really dull.
Mhm.
And it's like kind of the thing in these types of RPGs is like I feel like I got to be in on the story, or like the gameplay aspect, the combat or whatever has to be like incredible, like or like that experience has to be really compelling, we'll say.
Mhm.
I just played Dragon Quest 1. There's basically no story in that game, but I liked it because the experience of going out into danger was really compelling and kept me on my toes the whole game. So kind of my experience through this was like I didn't feel like things like you go through and like things happen. Actually, the one I want to throw this out there. One thing I really liked about it was like each of the towns you go to has their own little like apocalyptic event happening
Yes.
that like so like at the beginning of the game the mountain erupts and it rains these like gems everywhere, and the gems are like fucking things up across the whole continent. Everywhere you go they've got some kind of curse going on because of these gems, and it's like everyone in this town has been turned into trees, and this town is flooded because these things started spewing water everywhere, like many biblical events happening. And I thought that was neat. But other than those little short stories, like the story of chasing Saturos and Minardi and the others through the continent, I feel like I'm at the same point at the end of the game that I was at the beginning of the game. I didn't really feel like a ride there. Like things are different, but I don't feel that difference very much, if that makes sense. Um, and then like what could carry it, like character moments, conversations, things like that throughout the game. We've talked about the characters. I didn't get really anything from them. So like that's why as I went through, I got the just the overwhelming impression of this being really dull is because I just don't I'm not getting anything out of the story. The combat is doing the RPG combat thing where like it's interesting sometimes, not always, which is fine. That's a thing that I'm very okay with. So that's why the story mainly is the thing that like I guess I realized I kind of need to be involved in the story more than I thought I needed to before playing Golden Sun.
Yeah, and for me, the world is enough.
Yeah.
Like I kind of agree. I think we should talk about the combat in a little more depth because I think
Yeah.
there is
Yeah. Yeah.
something there. But like the combat I had actually an okay time with, but mostly it's because I played around with it. I agree with you. The story is just sort of like mostly whatever, but I like the individual stories of each place that you go. So you talk about
Mm-hmm.
the place where everyone's been turned into trees. There's like a town with a pandemic going on.
Yep.
There's the monsters that are flooding the town. There's all these different things happening, and they're all, especially if you talk to all the characters in the town, you find out they're all tied to this eruption. And so what you're seeing is this slow escalation of how this thing that happened at the very beginning of the game is starting to affect the world. So the idea, right, is that we want to keep alchemy sealed because if we don't keep it sealed, then like, yeah, alchemy will come back to the world and people will have magic powers again, but the world will be destroyed. We don't really know what that means, but all the rock with the eye is telling us, and the town elders, everyone's telling us the world is going to be destroyed if this
Mm-hmm.
happens. Probably because of like the hubris of man or something. I don't remember how much they tell you at the beginning of the game, but like, but you start to see you start to build evidence for that, right? Like you start to see all these horrible calamities happen, and you have to sort of come in and solve them using your magic powers that nobody can see, except some people are starting to be able to see them. Like before, the idea was all the people who had this magic, this synergy, were holed up in Vale, with maybe like a couple exceptions here and there, but that was kind of it. But now we're starting to see people all over exhibit instances of these strange powers.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you can feel the conflict escalating, even if Saturos and Minardi are not necessarily there the whole time. But you're also seeing this counterbalance, right? Like, so, obviously, like, I don't know. I assume this is not a story spoiler, but, the lighthouses do get lit. Like that is just a thing
Yeah.
that happens because it's that kind of game. Like one thing that happens is when the Mercury lighthouse, the first one, is lit, this healing water comes flowing out, and you're able to like help people who are suffering from illness with that. And so you're getting this kind of counterbalance of, okay, all these horrible things are happening, but also some cool things are happening. And there's like another character later, Phasey, who gets like this power from getting hit on the head by one of these magic rocks. And there's kind of this tension between, hey, like, you really shouldn't be running out into danger. And she's like, no, I have this power now. Like, I gotta go check this out, man. I gotta go help my friend. Like, it's really interesting. And I like that a lot. I like it's kind of what I said before, but I like the constant like teasing and mystery of this much bigger world out there. Like, I think at some point you hear that Saturos and Minardi are from somewhere far away that you never see in Golden Sun. You get like mentions of, oh, the village across the river or whatever, but you never get to go there. You never see it. You can kind of see, like, if you stand in the right place, like there's land across the mountains, but you can't really get to it. There's this whole thing towards the end of the game. There's a plot with like an old guy who's talking about like an elixir of life that he got from a place he went to a long time ago, and you never go there. Like there's a lot of that, and it very much teases this bigger world and this bigger conflict that is brewing. And I think that excitement really like got to me, and that's what kept me invested in the game.
Yeah. Those types of like that teasing of a bigger world didn't do so much for me personally, but what you said that did is the fact that like we have these very high stakes for the story, and like we need to succeed in what we're doing. And as you travel around, it's not something that's just off in the distance for much later in the game. Like everywhere you go is fucked up by this. Like this is real, and everywhere you go, you see the effects.
Yeah. It also escalates, I think. Like in the very first town, really the only thing that happened is a rock fell through a roof and a caravan got derailed because like a bridge fell out. Like it's not that big a deal. But by the time you're getting to the end, there's just like, oh, it's the forest that kills people. Great.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, exactly. So you do see that. It's not just like something that it would be really bad if it was one of those stories that was like, this big bad villain is coming and they'll show up toward the end of the game. And in Golden Sun, that would be in the second game, I guess. But that's not what this is. So give credit there for that, for sure. Let's dive into the combat since you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So the turn-based combat in here. One thing I just want to throw out real quick: the visuals of the combat itself.
It's like, so sick, dude.
Yeah,
on the GBA when I was like 11. Oh my god.
It's still. I mean, I play a lot of these RPGs. Not many of them take a lot of time to set up. A camera angle in combat the way that Golden Sun does. It has
with
this
3D
nice like
models.
Yeah, like behind the characters, low to the ground, so it's like this really epic shot of your party lined up fighting the thing you're fighting against. The enemy designs are always great. The summon animations are great. Like
the camera like spins around when you're summoning and you see them from the front profile, and they're like, they all have these cool. I was 11. They all have these cool poses, and the wind is like whipping through their capes and their hair. It's so sick, man.
Yeah. So
the magic animations, like the way like stuff like Ragnarok and Shine Plasma, when it hits and then this like magic light just splashes everywhere like it's liquid. Oh, it's sick. There's like cutscenes for the summons where they like come in and like a giant knight shoots a beam at the earth, and then oh my god, so cool, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. So like. Combat has a lot to it beyond just like the mechanical side. Like the presentation of combat's really quite good for what the Game Boy Advance could do, but even removed from limitations of the Game Boy Advance, I played this on Switch where that kind of stuff doesn't really exist anymore with modern RPGs, and it still looks badass. Like, looks, thinking of something more modern like an Octopath Traveler that's going for this sort of thing. Like Golden Sun does a lot more with animations and stuff than those games do. Like they were cooking with this. So
yeah, and we'll talk about the music later, but sick battle theme. That bass line, man. Isaac's battle theme I think is like an RPG classic. It's so good.
It is. Yeah. So the combat, pretty standard, like turn-based combat from the jump. You have your standard like attack, defend, magic, use items, stuff like that. But this game's big feature is collecting the Djinn, little creatures that you find around the world. You collect them. Sometimes you have to fight them to get them to join you. Sometimes you have to solve a puzzle to get them to join you. Once they join you, you can assign them to your different characters, and there's a whole system of like attaching them to the character to give them a stat buff. They'll change their character class, which might give them different skills that they can use inside and outside of battle. And the combat effect of this is giving your characters different spells, but also it sets up this cascade of using the Djinn for like a one-time effect or an attack, a buff, a healing spell, something like that. And then they go into like unequipped mode. And then when they're in unequipped mode, you can summon them for a big attack. But the thing about Golden Sun is if you have multiple of them from the same element that are in that unequipped mode, you can summon bigger and better things, all the way up to summoning 4 of them at the same time for like the ultimate summons that have like these basically these like world ending attacks that they like, things that would destroy
like
the
a whole
planet.
cutscene. Like it's just this sick thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the combat system, I already mentioned, like most of the fights in this, the way these RPGs usually work, you can just hit attack, and then maybe Ivan or Mia uses a spell.
Yeah.
And then that'll get you through most things. But where it really sings is in boss fights. And particularly, this is a rare game where I thought the harder the fight, the better the combat.
Yes, absolutely.
Setting up that cascade, because the thing about that also is when those Djinn are in unequipped mode, your characters are weaker. So if you're trying to set up big ass summons, you are debuffing your characters until they get attached again 3, 4, or 5 turns later.
Yeah.
And so
because
there's
they have like a period of
to
time
that.
after you summon them before they come back to you, basically. And it's a risk reward system, basically. Like you're risking a bunch of, like, you're risking getting one shot, which happens a lot. Because you have like no health. But the reward is you get to do big blow up attack.
Yeah. And so you get in this mode of like trying to set up like a sequence of whoever has, in the later fights, it was just everyone try to get your best summons going, try to get all 4 things going, try not to die in the process, have basically 1 or 2 turns where you fire off all of these summons and then build it back up and do it again. Which is, it takes some strategizing. It takes some real, adjustments, like on the fly. Like my favorite thing about these things is not only setting them up, but like if a boss hits me really hard and kind of knocks this train off the tracks and I have to like scramble to get everyone healed or revive people or, okay, I was setting up 4 of these in one turn, but I can really only do 1 and everyone else has to be on damage control. Like it got into a layer of strategy that doesn't happen a lot, but when it did, I found this combat system to be really good, really engaging. And again, rare to play a game like this where I think the final 3 or 4 bosses are like really excellent combat tests and not just like, because there's not a lot of like breaking of the system that the game will teach you how to do. So if you're playing it the way the game teaches you, I think you'll get a really excellent like experience without going wild with customization, which you can also do. But I thought this was really fun.
Yeah. I think too, one of the things that I really like is that all the different Djinn, like you mentioned, they all have different effects, but I really mean like different effects. Like some of them do damage. Some of them will debuff the enemy. Some of them will buff you, and that buff will last for several turns. Some of them will heal you. There's, I believe there's 2 in the game that do this. I can't remember the name of the other one, but Granite will put like this aura around you that is basically, okay, you're not taking any damage this turn. It's a really great like emergency help me button. And so there's also a balance between, okay, who do you equip these guys to? Most people play, you put all the Earth Djinn on Isaac, who's the Earth Adept, all the Fire Djinn on Garrett, who's the Fire Adept, and so forth. But you can mix and match. And not only will that change the kinds of stat buffs that these characters will get, because different Djinn give different kinds of stat buffs, it'll change the types of magic that they can cast. And it'll also change the configuration of, okay, you want Mia to be your healer, so maybe you don't want her using Djinn every turn. But maybe, oh no, the two main enemies of this game are fire guys, and fire is weak to water. So maybe you need some of your water Djinn on a different character so they can use them against that guy. Like there's all these different layers of that. And I think you're correct. Like, you can ignore them for the majority of the game, but there are, and that's what sucks about it. But there are, like, because I do the same thing. I don't use Djinn during regular battles. Why? What's the point?
Yep.
But and I think earlier in the game too, it's more fun to use them as well. Like the very first fight against it's just like a bandit trio who don't know any magic, but they have like some nuts they can eat. Like, that's kind of it. At that point, you have 2 Djinn? I don't remember what you have. I think you maybe only have 1 guy. Maybe you have 2. But boy, is it cool to use that 1 or 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like that feels powerful. And so being able to, I think you just have Flint. So being able to do that sort of thing, like, is really, really cool. It just, Golden Sun doesn't do enough to motivate you to mess around with it. So I basically agree with you. I've played this game so many times that I just screw around with the class system anyway, because it's fun. I guess I'll throw out here that Golden Sun also does this really weird thing that I have always hated, where, so you have this magic, right? You have synergy, and most of it is combat synergy. So, everybody has like their attacks that they can use. You level up, you get better versions of it. You get more Djinn, you get better versions of it. There's also some spells that characters can use outside of battle, utility synergy. And at the very beginning of the game, you just know like move, and you can just like move a block or whatever with it. But you get other ones as you go along. There's one utility synergy that you can only get by moving your Djinn around to different characters. It's growth. It makes a plant grow, and you either have to have a fire guy on Isaac or an earth guy on Garrett to get it. And the game never tells you that you have to do this.
Yep.
You just have to sort of figure it out, and it's very odd, and I always hated this.
Yeah, I hated it too.
How did you figure out you were supposed to do this?
I looked in a wiki because I reached the point where I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing with this thing. Like, obviously, the things that you interact with those utility Djinn in the environment are very obvious that like this is an interactable thing. So I saw that and I was like,
it's a little sprout,
right.
a little plant.
Yeah, we have the fucking water person on the team. Like, can she not just like sprinkle some water on it? But that's not how it works. One of the things that I thought was neat about the kind of summoning cascade 2 was that if you unequip, like if you use a Djinn in combat, it will unequip. And if it taught you a spell, that spell is gone while it's unequipped.
It's basically like it's not there.
Yeah.
Like, just gone.
So that was part of the strategy too, was like, I really want Mia to be able, or whoever's the healer, it was usually Mia. Isaac can do it too, but like, I need whoever's the healer to have their good spell that heals everybody at the same time. Cause the later boss fights, they can get tough. But if you use the Djinn that taught her that spell, suddenly you're like 4 or 5 turns without it in combat, and it hurts to not have it. So that risk reward extends beyond just like your stats are worse without the Djinn equipped. It's like, I can't use my best spell sometimes if I don't do this wisely. Like, I need to know which Djinn grants which spell, not just that it would be nice for Mia to use 4 water Djinn, because you can hold 6 at the end of the game. I want to say 6, 7, something like that.
I believe, oh man, I didn't count them. I believe there's 28 total, 7 for each character.
Yeah. So you have a lot of options, but you need to know which options are safe to use and which ones are not. And I did the thing where Isaac got all the earth ones, Garrett got all the fire ones. I thought about messing around with like mixing and matching them, but the game never really hit me with a wall where I was like forced to like step back and really reassess, how I'm using these things. Is that a thing in The Lost Age?
Yes and no. I think I don't think there's a wall necessarily, but it definitely does some things to force you to confront mixing Djinn around.
Okay.
The pacing of The Lost Age is such that, and the way you get your party members is such that there are multiple points in like sort of the first 10 hours of the game where you will have a weird amount of elemental Djinn for the characters that you have, assuming you're getting them all. And so you'll be in a situation where, okay, I have all, like, you have one person of all 4 elements in the Lost Age, whatever, that's obvious. You'll have like 2 earth, 2 fire, a wind, and then like 3 water. That's not the exact situation, but it's something like that where like because it forces you to keep them even. You can choose who gets which one, but you can't end up in a situation where one person has like 10 and another person has 0. You have to keep them like evened out. And so it forces you to give that third person for whom you don't have a matching element something else. And so inevitably there's parts of that game where you have a situation where they're using spells that you like have not seen before. Okay. And it does that a lot in the first like 10 hours or so of the game. Eventually it does get to a point where it's pretty much even and it doesn't matter anymore. But I think that serves as a better introduction to what these things actually do than what Golden Sun gives you. It also, do you want me to tell you? It does 2 other things mechanically in the Lost Age that I think help solve this problem.
Sure.
So one of those things is there are items you can equip that you find in the Lost Age that change your character class. Okay. They're weapons usually. I think they're all, no, I don't remember. And they change your class to something else, but those are also impacted by what Djinn they have. And so just inherently when you get something like the Tamer's Whip or the card, whatever that is, and you're like, okay, I got a new weapon. I'm going to equip it and see what it does. It changes your class. And then you realize, okay, it's the spells I'm getting with this are different depending on which Djinn I equip. And so it adds even more customization in there and makes you kind of motivated to play with it. The other thing the Lost Age does that I think you'll like is it introduces way more summons, including some that involve different elements combining.
Yeah.
So you get one really early on, Zagan, who's earth and fire. And again, that like sort of prompts you to think even harder about which Djinn are on which guy and how I'm doing this. The Lost Ages, I think, downside is most of those mixed elemental summons are not good. compared to the basic ass ones you're getting in this game. However, in the late game, the strongest summons involve like absurd amounts of Djinn of 2 elements. Like there's a couple that are just absolutely unhinged powerful, but you need like, God, I don't remember, like 8 Mercury and like 5 Mars or some crap like that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. And so again, there's a lot of Djinn in the Lost Age. There's a stupid amount. And so again, I think the Lost Age does a better job of knocking on the player's door and reminding you, hey, we have this whole combat system over here. The fights are also harder. We have this whole combat system over here. What if you engaged with it a little bit? What if you just played around? And I think Golden Sun basically presents it to you at the beginning of the game and then assumes you like it enough to play with it. But maybe you don't. Or maybe you just don't know that you like it enough to play with it.
Yeah. What it sounds like is, what you might expect from the Lost Age being the second half is they introduce the system to you. They teach you the limits of it in the first game of like using the same element on every person, kind of the standard way to use it. Mm-hmm. And then the way they up the complexity is to, okay, start mixing and matching a little bit.
Yeah.
See how that
temporarily
works.
Taking that ability away from you to have all the same element on one person.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, that's what it is. You get, at the beginning of the game, you only have an earth, a fire, and a wind adept, but they start giving you Mercury Djinn really early, water. And so you got to put the water guy somewhere. Where does he go? Right.
Okay. So, it would be interesting to see. I kind of got the feeling like if I was a spreadsheet weirdo with the Djinn in Golden Sun, like I wonder, is there like a combination that's actually like way super powered compared to like the stock way to assign the Djinn? I got the feeling that might be hiding in there somewhere, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah. So, I'm not mad that the game doesn't like make you do that in here. I found when the game gets hard, the things that it kind of teaches you about did enough for me to like really enjoy meeting that challenge, which was good.
So the equipment system, it's mostly like a bog standard, like, okay, we got some gloves, we got a chest plate, we got a sword.
Yep.
But the further you get, you start getting these weapons that have the ability to, like, it's sort of a random chance they'll unleash and they'll do like a really cool effect.
Yeah.
I think they're called artifact weapons. Yeah, that's right, artifacts. There's a lot of them. You will basically always have one on every character after you get to a certain point in the game. There's like no reason not to have one. And they're just cool. Like, they're great because you're spending so much time in just regular monster battles, just attacking and using magic over and over and not using the Djinn system. And so they sort of add a little bit more interest to those encounters because you get to see like cool magic effects even when you're just attacking. You also get enough of them frequently enough that you're constantly changing them. And I always thought that was cool. The text is like, whatever it is, like Assassin's Blade lets out a howl and then it does this cool animation. I just like that. I think it's sick. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, no, those are cool. And those also, they give a little extra utility, I found, to the magic characters, the ones that normally wouldn't be physical attackers. Like, you're not necessarily wasting a turn by having them attack because they might fire off a spell from their weapon that does a bunch of damage, as opposed to...
Mia's got that crystal rod that has the ability Drown, which has a small chance to insta-kill. And so, like, Mia, I would normally not have attacking with that, but when I put the crystal rod on her, sometimes she just kills something, and it's great.
Yep. And also, like, there is a portion of this game where managing your magic resource is like a thing, going through dungeons, going through, like, long... puzzle exploration dungeon type sequences. And so you would want to use magic spells with the magic based, they're all magic based, but like with the prototypical mage type characters, but you don't want to waste all your magic because, or synergy points or whatever they're called. They can't sustain you through the whole dungeon. And sometimes they'll give you refills. Items that replenish it are really rare early on. And so, like, I had a good, like, dungeon exploring type of vibe where I was, like, really managing resource. Like, a couple times where I was, like, in the big tree dungeon where I was like, I got to go back. Like, I got to go back to town and heal. And I think that's neat. Like, that push-pull of, like, do I keep going forward or I'm about to run out of magic? Once I run out of magic, this character is going to be next to useless. So is it better just to go back now? And I thought that was neat. And, that goes away after a while. But for the time that it was there, that was a nice wrinkle in, like, the gameplay experience, too.
Yeah, I do think even after the point in the game where it goes away, there's items that can replenish your magic, but like you said, they're really, really rare. I think even at the end of the game, they're kind of in limited supply, so you sort of got to be careful. Yeah. But there's also, you'll sometimes find a synergy stone, which is a little purple crystal lying on the ground. And when you see that, you can use it and it'll replenish the whole party's magic fully, and then it'll disappear, and it won't reappear until you, like, fully leave the dungeon and come back. And I like those because they have that, like, Dark Souls bonfire feeling. Like, you walk into the room, you see one, you immediately open your menu and cast all your strongest healings because it only replenishes your magic. So you burn all of your magic power using your healing spells on everybody, and then you take the stone, and that's like it's your checkpoint. It's really nice.
I enjoyed that. And also, like, you're going to be using, well, it's not a ton of it, but you will be using your synergy for those environmental utility type things. So let's talk about those. I think this is one of, like, the back of the box type things about Golden Sun is using the synergy outside of combat, like to do things in the environment. Like you said, with the grow spell to make a vine grow so you can climb up a cliffside or something like that. Freezing ice blocks, moving stuff around. These are usually used for puzzle solving. And these are not really puzzles. They're like, how much of a puzzle is it to see a statue and see a switch and you're like, okay, push the statue on the switch. Like, they're puzzles.
It's Sokoban. Like, do you not play Sokoban games?
Okay.
Yeah.
By definition, yes, it is. I say the same thing about Legend of Zelda puzzles. Like, is it a puzzle to see 5 torches and seeing, like, okay, I gotta light the torches? Like, is that really a puzzle? It's a thing to do on a screen. And Golden Suns are just so simple. Like, the only ones that I really enjoyed, and I did enjoy these, was when you see a Djinn that you don't know how to get to.
Yes.
And you have to figure out, they're usually like multiple steps involved with those.
And they're a little harder, and they have like
Yeah.
soft fail states where if
Yeah.
you push a block the wrong way, you have to leave the screen and re-enter, which
Yep.
means you have to fight a few more monsters and you have to waste some more magic. Like, yeah.
Which, I mean, that can get tedious if you just can't figure out what to do, but it is more involved using those things. The way they usually work, though, is like I walk into a room, there's a statue, it's inside of a track, so I can't push it somewhere where I'm not supposed to push it. And then it's just, there's a place that you obviously have to push this thing to. Push it there, or like push it somewhere where you can go up a staircase and hop on top of it and then hop to the next part and stuff like that. This was something that I remembered from the first time I played it, and I remembered it being neat. And then I played it this time and I was like, man, if this was the thing that made you stop playing when you were 13, like, it's no wonder your grades weren't very good in junior high, dude. Like, there was just really, really got me in that mode where I'm pushing the statue, going in the menu over and over again to push.
Wait, really? You were going in the menu every time?
Or if there's like multiple things, or like freezing multiple ice blocks, freeze it, then push it, or something like that. Or just,
do you know about the shortcut system?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I did for the more annoying things, where you'd have to do it a lot. Yeah. And then also did it for the mind read one, because
I had move and mind read basically all the time.
Because you can't open the menu if you're standing in front of the person you want to mind read. You have to.
You can. It's on the. I don't know, because I had it on shortcut. I remember on the Game Boy Advance it was on the select button. You could also open the menu that way. I don't know what that would be on the Switch controller.
Maybe it's select button on the Switch is so out of the way that I would ever push it. Maybe it is, but anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, why would you know that? Like, the game doesn't tell you.
Right. So anyway, there's a lot of small things that you have to do. What I was saying was I got in that mode of like, it's just taking me a long ass time to push this thing where I'm trying to push it, and I'm thinking about how like boring of a thing to be doing in a room this is. And other than when you're trying to figure out how to catch a Djinn, I don't think this really gets much better than that.
It does sometimes. I think you're correct. Like, most of the puzzles are pretty basic. I think there's a lot of like sort of interesting finesse in places that you might not necessarily notice it or might not know to look. So there's stuff that I really like in there's a couple dungeons toward the end of the game that are tied together. And in one of them, you basically use a spell on the statue, and it gives you a riddle, and then like lights up a path for you, and determines the path you're going to take in the next dungeon. And that's not necessarily a puzzle, but sort of like understanding what's happening and then knowing like how to navigate what you're about to do, I think is a really cool use of all that. I agree with you. Like, I think a lot of the Djinn puzzles are really good. I think some of the late game puzzles are okay. The stuff that I really like is Colosso and Crossbone Isle. So I know you did Colosso because you have to. Did you ever do Crossbone Isle?
Yes. Is that the one where you go down 100 flights of stairs?
Yeah. Did you do the whole thing?
Yep. Did the whole thing with the.
Dang. Did you beat the boss?
Yeah.
Okay. Nicely done. I like the puzzles in Crossbone Isle. I think they're pretty good. I think they're super interesting because did you end up getting all the Djinn then? Because I think you have to.
I want to say yes. Maybe I was missing one, but I think because I was following a walkthrough for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
So I did get the Djinn. There may have been one, because sometimes they're just like in random squares on the overworld.
Yeah, there's 3 of them that are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly. I have their spots memorized too, which is really horrible.
Yeah.
I think the optional stuff in Golden Sun is the most interesting stuff. I think Crossbone Isle has some pretty interesting puzzles. I really like the one with the statues that chase you that uses the halt gem. I think that's really neat. I actually think there aren't very many puzzles in that game that use halt, which is an optional spell you can get that basically freezes something in place. But I like the ones that do. I like the one where you have to chase the Djinn around and then freeze him on the other side of the wall to get him. Mm-hmm. I really like Colosso. So Colosso's this, it's the standard video game hero has to enter a tournament, has to enter it by himself. But I think the part that's really interesting is you have to like do this race to get to, like 3 different races in a row to get to the arena where you fight the guy who you're fighting in this tournament. And you can, if you're fast and you know what you're doing, just beat him to the arena, in which case you're sort of like stripped of all your armor for those fights, but you get a better piece of armor than him for the fight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you get to keep it into the next couple of fights too. So you ideally want to like do that for all 3. But your friends are in the audience, and there's a sort of little puzzle where you get to place which part of the audience your friends are standing in,
Mm-hmm.
and then right before your match starts, they get to sort of come forward, and there's a wall between them and the actual puzzles that you have to navigate in the tournament, but they have synergy that can reach over the wall. And so if you've placed them correctly, you can then use your spells to sort of give yourself a leg up. And some of them are pretty easy. Like there's, some early ones where you're just moving a pillar to the side or freezing an ice pillar so you can jump across more easily. But there's a couple later on where you have to like really assess what's going on in that arena and make a decision about who you're going to put where and how you're going to position them and what spell they're going, because they only get one spell as well. Like you don't get to do multiple. And I always think that one's funny because there's also multiple ways that you can organize it to make it make sense. And then you have to navigate the maze on the fly and make use of their assistance correctly the first time, or the other guy's going to beat you. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was neat. I thought that was a fun way to do that. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I like that too because of the strategy of like, I wasn't mixing and matching like the Djinn. It felt very unpredictable to me as to like, if I take this Djinn and move it to this character, what's it going to do? It was more just like, well, try it and see, but it's probably not going to be what you hope for. So switching back, kind of felt like fusing personas in that way, where it's like, oh, we'll just fuck around and see what happens. Like if it tells me something good's going to happen, I'll do it. But I'm not going to try and like learn the inner workings of it. So in that Colosso part, it was interesting to be like, well, we have one where we have a thing that needs to be moved. We have one with a plant, and we have one with a puddle of water. And there is an optimal way to assign characters to those zones so they can use the spell that they have. But if you fuck it up, then you're going to have a couple sections of the race where Isaac doesn't have a shortcut or doesn't have like a leg up in it. So it was interesting. That choice was interesting. And then it's like, okay, move your thing one space to the right using the spell. It's just there are interesting ways that they can use those tools, but those tools are super simple and they don't often take it beyond, well, I walk into a room, there's a puddle of water, so I freeze it into a pillar and then use it to jump over. And it's like, it's just a step to do along the way. And I found using those, I already used the Zelda comparison. Like I think lighting torches in Zelda is more fun than pushing statues in Golden Sun. So
that's
like
fair.
that sort of thing.
I think I guess the point I'm making is I think that there's moments in Golden Sun where they show that they understand what a good puzzle can be. Yeah. And then you're correct that they mostly don't execute on them. I can forgive a lot of the early game stuff because I think early games having easy puzzles is just like sort of whatever. Like you're initiating the player into how your systems work. It's fine. But yeah, I do find myself wanting a little more out of it later on. That Golden Sun does not quite give, and maybe I'll get in a sequel. Who can say?
Yeah, who's to say? No, they definitely do have sometimes when they're using, especially when they're using combinations of multiple things, where things do get a little bit more interesting and more like I actually need to look at a room and figure out like, okay, this is the route I need. What's in here that I can use? Like that type of stuff. So, yeah.
I do think also there's a couple moments in the game where, because there are several optional spells that you can collect, environmental spells, and there are definitely some things that you just cannot do if you have not collected those spells, but there are also a couple moments in the game where it sort of lets you sneak past, even if you haven't gotten them. One of my very favorites is, Force is a spell you can get, which is basically a big hand that punches, like, forward. And it's kind of like, it has, like, very limited use outside of a couple situations that are, like, plot relevant, but you can skip it. You don't have to pick it up. You can just sort of ignore it. But if you don't get it, there's a point in the game where you're supposed to have it, and you're supposed to use it to bang on a wall. If you don't have it, Garrett, who's kind of like the again, they don't have much personality, but if he has one, his is sort of the lovable, stupid oaf best friend. He gets mad because you've hit a dead end, and he just kicks the wall really hard, and the game progresses anyway.
That's nice.
There's a couple moments like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Because I remember there was a point where I was like, I don't really know where I'm supposed to be going. That was another thing where it's like, a lot of times they'll be like, well, we heard a rumor that this is going on in this town. And I'm like, I don't know where that town is. I don't know, they don't even say go to the west most of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like wandering, and I don't really have the patience for wandering unless I really love a game. So I did check the walkthrough, and a couple times they would say, by this point you should have force. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have no idea what that is. So it's like, all right, go back, find where, control F force. Where is this fucking thing? So that did happen, but it is cool that they have that thing in there where Garrett's, all right, fuck this, kick the wall.
Yeah. I think you're correct on that. They reference a lot of things throughout both Golden Sun games. Where like, oh, it's over here. And I think the biggest offenders of that in this game are they talk a lot in the early part of the game. They have to cross the Caragol Sea. I don't know what the Caragol Sea is. Yep. I thought it was the ocean. I don't know where that is. And basically what's happening at the beginning of the game is the rocks have broken this bridge that you need to cross to get down to the Caragol Sea. And you can't get across it. So you basically have to take this roundabout route around the continent to get back to where you were, to the other side of that bridge. And you do this, and like you don't know where you're going because you don't understand what the shape of the continent. I mean, you have a world map, but it's Game Boy Advance size. It's not great. You can't really see what you're doing. And when you finally get all the way back around, the bridge has been fixed anyway. Yeah. Which is funny. Like it's intended to be like, you can have a shortcut back to the beginning of the game. There's some optional dungeons up here you can do now that you have more powers. But I mean, really, it's just sort of insulting. Like, great, I did all of that and you have fixed the bridge. Thank you so much.
That kind of reminds me. I wish that I could have like pressed a button and opened a world map that, labeled the towns or something. Or
it does?
Does it?
Only after you visited them?
Okay. And maybe that's another. Is it apparently I didn't press the select button my whole playthrough? Like
it's on L and R, so okay. I don't remember which is which. I never use it because it's useless. Like it's super blurry.
Maybe that's why.
But there's like one of them. One of those buttons gives you a world map, and the towns are like little blinky lights. They show you where they are, but it's like very zoomed out and topographical, and you can't really zoom in. So it's like it's sort of helpful for like, okay, here I am. I need to get back to Calais or whatever. Where is that in relation to where I am now? And you can kind of see like some land masses. You can kind of see like where deserts are and stuff, but it's not super helpful. And then the other button will zoom you out when you're on the overworld. Not super far, but it'll zoom you out enough so you can kind of see the land around you. And that's really helpful if you're kind of stuck in a corner and you're like, where is there a bridge I should be crossing? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. When I was playing, I wondered if it was just in the manual. And it's just, happens with a lot of games that are older than this, or this age, where like, there we go. There's the manual.
We can check. Is there a map in here? I don't remember.
But it's a very common thing, right?
No.
Where I'll play one of these games and be like, man, they don't teach you shit. And the answer was like, they did. It's in the manual. They figured you would have it. And now I don't. So
nope, there's no map in here. There is this sick concept art though, or I guess official art. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of sick, let's talk about the soundtrack. We've touched on it a little bit, but I want to like give it its due. The battle track we mentioned, the battle track kicks ass. Doesn't change a whole lot through the course of the game, and I was 0% mad about that. It was one where it's like great. It's a kick ass. I'll listen to it 1,000 more times. I'll be happy with it. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the rest of the soundtrack is like the battle track is like this kick ass like rock song. And then the rest of the soundtrack has a lot of different sounds, but it's comparatively like a lot more chill, or just not quite as like fast and in your face as that battle track, but I was writing down some favorites earlier.
Let's go. Let's hear them.
So the overture song that plays at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
reminds me of the Dragon Quest overture. This game's super inspired by Dragon Quest, like most of these games are, but like
Yeah.
I can hear it in that song. And then the one when you bring up the main menu before you start the game, where you just have that screen and it's like continue, new game options, whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
Just that chill guitar track with like a flute or something, like
I think it's called Turn the Page. It's a really good, yeah.
It's great. And then this game has a great overworld song, like
Yes,
overworld map. We're setting out on an adventure type of song. People have probably heard all these songs by this point, an hour and a half into the episode, but these are really good. And then, you know, the Game Boy Advance had a lot of limitations as far as the type of music the type of sounds that it could put out, and the compression especially can mess up certain soundtracks. I don't feel like this one really suffered from it though. Like
No.
it just sounds real good. Granted, I played it on the Switch. Maybe they did something with the sound, but I really like this.
There's a really great YouTube channel. I'll have to look up which one it is, but they're doing. You can look up on YouTube Golden Sun soundtrack recompiled, and they're basically doing like a more like I guess pure version of the soundtrack with all the like the instrumentation pulled out. They even have some tracks on there that have like this instrument was recorded for this track, but it was taken out in the final version. Here's what it sounds like with it in, and that's some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, the soundtrack rules. It's so good. The Lost Age is even better somehow. Like they add even more good stuff on top of like they revisit all the same songs from the first game, and then they just add a bunch more that are incredible. In addition to the ones that you've mentioned, I love the Soul Sanctum music at the very beginning of the game when you first go down to the area with the elemental stars. Playing that on the Game Boy as a kid, going into this like temple of elemental magic, and then hearing like these like little clinky chimes that sound like super magical and peaceful but mysterious.
Oh yeah, that's
my gosh,
that one reminded me of the one of the Chrono Trigger songs. Yeah, that's a good song.
It's really good. I love that one. It also plays like I think at the top of the lighthouses as well. It's really good. I think Kolima Forest does this really cool thing with like the pan flute button on someone's keyboard. This sounds really great. Shoot, what else? I think I like Tolby during Colosso. I think that song's really fun. It's very exciting. I used to also listen to the Colosso theme. There's a multiplayer battle mode in this game for some reason that I assume you did not touch. No. There's no reason to do this. It's like an arena type of thing. You just go in and play around with the battle system. But there's also a guy in the lobby for that battle arena that is a sound test, and you can talk to him and he'll let you play any track of the game. And when I was a kid, I used to put my Game Boy Advance in my pocket at track meets and put a pair of crappy headphones on and listen to the Colosso theme while I was walking around the track. I was such a loser. Oh my God.
No, that kicks ass. I love that.
No, it does not kick ass. I think my favorite track in this whole game is Venus Lighthouse. So Venus Lighthouse, the Lighthouse of Earth, is the final dungeon of the game. It's the second lighthouse you visit of the 4 in the 2 games. I think that to this day is one of the best final dungeon themes out there. It is beautiful and triumphant, has these like incredible trumpets going on, and it's, oh my gosh, I love that theme so much. It also kicks in at a really cool point. So not to spoil Venus Lighthouse for people, the way that dungeon is structured is the first half of the final dungeon of the game is technically something else. Like it's like this different ruin that is not technically that lighthouse, and you have to kind of go through this weird like roundabout way to get into the actual lighthouse building. And so you've done this dungeon and you've gone through like all these puzzles and you fought all these monsters, and then you climb this set of stairs and you walk into this room, and the architecture changes, and there's like this symbol on the floor showing where you are, and the music hits. It's so good, man.
It's I can't remember the song off the top of my head, but I remember the music being good in the last dungeon for sure.
One more. Sorry. Saturos. He has there's a fight just against him at one point. It's like kind of the halfway point of the game, just about. His battle theme's great. That's another sort of instance of that sort of more rock kind of music that I think you're referring to. The battle themes are a little more like that, but I don't care for the normal boss battle theme that much. I don't think it's that great, but I think Saturos' battle theme is really good.
Yeah. I'll make sure to throw those suggestions into the episode. We're gonna have a lot of music breaks with how long it is. So hell yeah.
Sorry, you invited me on. You know what you're
No,
in for.
this is not me being disappointed in anything. It's just saying I got music breaks to fill and I've got music to fill them.
Let's go.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting. So like the Game Boy Advance couldn't. Well, maybe I don't want to say couldn't because I don't know if that's true. This game did not use like a lot of sampled music.
No.
I don't know if it could. I didn't look it up. But what they did do is they did like approximate a bunch of, like you said, like pan flute type things, guitars, and then like we mentioned before Sakuraba's Souls soundtracks, which they are effective. I don't like listening to them, but they're effective at stressing you out.
Yeah.
But Sakuraba's thing, when I think of Sakuraba's music, other than like Firelink Shrine and the Gwyn song from Dark Souls 1, but the rest of them are these choirs in your face, like that kind of stuff. And I think they got like some MIDI approximations of that in some of these songs.
Yeah.
They're just like, I think that's the role they're filling. And if they were to like remake the soundtrack, I think that's it would be a more prominent part of this, is to have all those other things going on, but then have these like choirs in the background, you know, adding that kind of epic flavor to a lot of these songs.
Yeah, I do think that like some of its magic comes from the instrumentation. Like I've listened to, there are very few remixes of the Golden Sun soundtrack that I really like. I think because people try to do too much with it. So I'm always like a little hesitant, but I also said earlier that I would love to see a remake of this in HD2D, but I would like Sakuraba to come back into the music. So whatever. I do want to send you, after this episode, I'm going to send you the Batten Kaito soundtrack, because
Okay.
that's a third genre of Sakuraba
Yeah.
that is absolutely fascinating.
I've had multiple people tell me they want to hear that on the podcast. So
Does Batten Kaito's episode?
Yeah, never played
Call
it.
me up. That's another one of my sicko games.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely check out the soundtrack for sure, because I'm interested in Sakuraba's third thing.
Yeah, actually, don't call me up for Batten Kaitos. I don't want to play that game again.
Okay, fair enough.
It's great, but I don't want to play it again.
So yeah, good soundtrack. And you know, I think I've said before on the show, I've definitely thought this before, that music can really do a lot of lifting in games. Like a game that I think is fine can be a game that I like if the soundtrack rips. And like, I really think a fairly significant part of the things I did like about Golden Sun were because the music is really good. So if I'm like not enjoying a dungeon, at least I have a good song to listen to. And if I'm not enjoying hitting attack in combat, the battle song is so fucking good. Like I'm just happy to be listening to it in a way.
Yeah.
Like I do think music can have that power for me. I don't know if it's the same for you or for people listening, but music can like raise something a letter grade at least.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's a not insignificant part of why I like this game so much. Golden Sun, I think without the Lost Age attached, I think if you're enjoying it as a vibes game. Like you're enjoying the world building and kind of the atmosphere and the visuals of it, like sort of the places that you're going, and you're enjoying the music because it's setting a vibe. And that is a lot of it for me, I think. But yeah, the music is very close to my heart.
Yeah.
Oh, I also like the little jingle that plays when you save the game. They got rid of it in the Lost Age. It's like the worst decision they made in that whole game, is getting rid of that little jingle. It's just a silent loading, but I like the little dee-dee-dee-doo. It's really cool.
Couldn't have a flat improvement across the board. They had to take something from you.
Yeah, they took away the little jingle. It was a terrible idea.
So, is there anything else about Golden Sun you want to touch on before we get to spoilers?
I'm trying to think.
We didn't do like a dedicated visual section, but we talked
good.
about the way it looks. You know,
pretty game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, Game Boy Advance, but like, I guess like the one thing I'll say that to sort of emphasize this is, having played it at the time, I do think a lot of the things that were really good then hold up. Some things that were okay then do not hold up, and then some things that were good then are not good anymore. Like it's sort of like uneven in that regard. At the time, this was one of, and I think still is one of the most impressive things on the Game Boy Advance. Like visually, musically, and even like in terms of just RPGs at the time. Like this was doing some really cool stuff that a lot of other things were not. And I think it's I don't think it's necessarily a product of its time because, like I said, I think a lot of pieces of it do hold up very, very well. But I think some of my feeling is nostalgia, but I do think there's at least a corner of my feeling that no, in 2001, right? This was really cool. Like this was not what you were getting everywhere else, and that necessarily. I mean, yeah, like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy were doing different things. They were doing them very well. They were doing them better. But Golden Sun has a very specific like set of skills that it's putting out there, and I just like I think it's really impressive and is still I think one of the best games on the GBA.
Yeah, I remembered being impressed by it when I played it for sure. And I had played, I'm trying to think up until that point, I had played, all the Pokemon games that had come out until then. I had maybe, I don't remember when Final Fantasy VI got on the GBA, but I played that on the GBA. That was the first time I played that. But there weren't a lot of and I played Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on there, but there weren't like a ton of big RPGs that I remember playing. And I played a lot of Game Boy Advance. Like it was
same
kind of my thing.
Yes. This was my system for a while.
Yeah. Like I had a GameCube and I had an Xbox, but if you just look at hours, I probably put way more into the Game Boy Advance than I did those other systems. So I can see this at the time being like a standout. We have this big adventure on the Game Boy Advance, and it's not a re-release,
right?
Like the Final Fantasy games were. Yeah. As far as it like holding up over time, I hadn't really thought about. I don't really know. I guess it's kind of impossible to.
It's hard to mentally go back in time and be
back
like
there, but thinking of other RPGs like this, maybe they weren't on the Game Boy Advance, but they were on the Super Nintendo or something like that. I would stop short at saying that this is something that I would see as impressive alongside those others. But
I think it's visually and musically impressive. I think like its story is certainly not doing it any favors at all by any stretch, nor is its character writing. I don't think I know you hate the puzzles. What RPGs had better puzzles than this, truly?
Well,
I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying like nobody was good at that yet.
Well, the alternative was having no puzzles and just doing combat through dungeons.
Okay, sure, fine. But they were trying something here.
They were trying. And we've talked about the ways that they did hit on those at certain points, for sure. So now we ask the question, who would we recommend play Golden Sun? And I know that the second half of that is that you should probably just keep playing into the second game, right?
I think my real answer is I think if you like RPGs of this era, if you tend to like older RPGs and you want to try this, I'd say give Golden Sun give it 5 hours. Like give it up to maybe Kalima, like the forest town or something. And if you're not really buying what it's selling by then just call it. It's not going to get better for you in a way that is going to magically transform your opinion. I do think you kind of have to give it through the opening couple hours just because I know you really liked them, but like a lot of people, if you don't like talking, there's a lot of talking in the first couple hours, but there's still a lot of talking in the rest of the game, but is significantly less compared to that first couple hours of exposition. So I think you kind of got to get through that and get out into the world. Getting to Kalima gives you a little bit of experience with the Djinn system, a little bit of experience with the combat, and you get to meet your third party member by then. And that basically sets you up for what you're about to experience. And if you're not into it by then you're probably it is going to get better from there and significantly better in the Lost Age, but I don't think it's going to get so much better that you're going to be on board. Yeah.
So from what I gathered, you've heard, in exhaustive detail at this point, all the things that I didn't like about this. Do enough of those change in the Lost Age to because right now I'm still very much just not really interested in continuing with more Golden Sun.
Let's talk about it in the second half and come back to that question because I genuinely don't know. It's an interesting follow-up. I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll get there. So in the spoilers, we'll do a kind of not spoiling what happens in the second game, but a little bit
Right.
talk of like how this evolves a little
Yeah,
bit,
I'll talk
I
about the
guess.
setup at least, like
Yeah.
the opening of it, and some of the things that you might anticipate would happen in that game
Right.
from the information you get in the first couple hours.
Yeah. And then for my recommendation, I just don't really recommend this like unless you are the type. I mean, everyone makes the decision for themselves. And this is a game that a lot of people really love. Like when I said that I didn't like it, I was met more with surprise than anything else by a lot of the people that I talked to about it. So if you've listened all the way through the show up until this point, you have a good idea of like what both of us think and make the decision for yourself. But a lot of times I'm a lot more eager to recommend something to specific people. And now it's just like, hey, I don't like this, but you know yourself. I trust the Tales from the Backlog listeners, especially the ones that listen this far. Know yourself and what you want out of the game. And if you do play it, I think just plan to play both games. Treat it
Yeah,
as what, like a 50, 60-hour game and not a
yeah,
20-hour game. Yeah.
that's roughly what it is. The Lost Age is significantly longer than Golden Sun, but it's not like you're not getting a 100-hour RPG. Like it's not that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, we'll revisit some of those things in the spoiler section. Before we get there, let's do some housekeeping. Let's talk about the work that you're doing over at Kotaku now. So,
Yeah.
as I said at the beginning, you're an investigative journalist. You do a lot of reviews over there too. A lot of other topic-based writing and stuff like that. So, tell the people about, tell them about Kotaku.
Oh man. Okay. Well, we're recording this a little bit before it's going to get published, so I don't necessarily know what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. But
Mhm.
earlier in August, I did write like a little more personal retrospective about Golden Sun and why I love it. It actually, I talked about some stuff that I didn't talk about in here, stuff that's like a little more like me emotional. So
Mhm.
if you liked this discussion, maybe go give that a read. It's pretty short.
Yeah.
We also, I believe by the time this episode is out, Kotaku will have done something called Warp Week. We will have spent a week going back in time to 2002, an incredible year for video games. And we have a bunch of pieces on the website, hopefully by now, of a combination of articles written as if it's 2002 and a bunch of stuff that's like sort of reflective on 2002.
Mhm.
And as Dave and I were talking in the prep for the show, I realized that I had not written anything about Golden Sun: The Lost Age, which was announced and released in Japan during 2002. So I hope I have made time to go write something about that for Warp
Yeah.
Week. So go find that and see if I did it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and apart from that, I mean, I'm working on some investigative reports for Kotaku that I can't talk about and don't necessarily know if they'll be up, but you can always look for my work there and see what I've been doing.
Yeah. Well, I'll be sure to link, like you have like an author's profile on Kotaku. I'll be sure to link that. And then, I think you do.
I can
Um,
do bad radio here for a minute and pull it up.
well, I'll definitely link.
Kotaku.com/author/R Valentine.
There we go. Yeah. I'll link that and I'll link specifically the Golden Sun story or stories, depending on how many are up there. So people can check those out. Again, like I always tell you, I appreciate your reporting and the stories that you dig up and the way you report on them. Telling stories that all of us that love video games, we should hear about. So we appreciate your work. And then I really like reading your reviews. Like
Oh.
recently I loved your Rhythm Heaven review, which is a game I'm playing right now. And the way that you framed the joy and the pure rage that game can bring out of you is 100% correct. So
Yep.
Yep.
Disc dog. Pardon me, get fucked. I did actually the most recent review that I've done at this time is Big Walk, which is
Yes.
a very different game from Golden Sun. It's a cooperative multiplayer game, but that is currently my favorite thing that I've played this year. It is freaking incredible. So if you think you might like a co-op game, go read my review of Big Walk. And then also I reviewed the new Deltarune chapter if you're more of an RPG kind of person.
There we go. Lot of stuff. And I remembered reading your review / interview on Titanium Court was a big thing
Yeah.
settle the way that I felt about that game before recording. We name dropped your article with your interview with AP Thompson in that episode. yeah, just great
Titanium
work
Court
across
was
the
my
board.
favorite thing I played this year until I played
Yeah.
Big Walk. So it's a tough year.
Yeah, it's just bangers all the time. That's what video games are now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be sure to link that down in the show notes so people can easily find it, and a lot of different types of stuff that they can go check out too. So yeah, that'll be down in the show notes. For Tales from the Backlog, there's a lot of ways to get involved or support the show. You can join the Discord server. Come talk about Golden Sun. In my Discord server, there's a nice mix of big fans and big haters. So some interesting conversations about Golden Sun in there. If you're here on the podcast apps, leaving ratings and reviews is very helpful. If you're here on YouTube, liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel is all very helpful. And then Patreon is also very helpful. If you want to throw me a few bucks a month, patreon.com/realdavejackson is the place. And like I said, Golden Sun is on the show because it won a poll. I do polls monthly. All paid patrons can vote. And we always have a weird mix of games because I don't pick the games that go in the polls. The patrons pick them. So
Thank you, Golden Sun fans.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's all my plugs. We're going to take our spoiler break now. And when we come back, it's going to be full spoiler time for Golden Sun. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Golden Sun, I've got a guest appearance I want you to know about, and we'll do the customary thank yous. This week, I'll be on the Pixels and Polygons podcast once again, this time going through my gaming origin story. It's like a superhero origin story, only a little less dramatic and more Sega. So, check out Pixels and Polygons podcast for that. I'll throw a link down in the show notes as always. And as always, I'd like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. A big hearty thank you and shout out goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Kopleen, Nick Fakori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Aaron, Alan Kress, Doug T., Retro Overdrive, Magic Crow, Curly Bright, Ian L., Steve Yeager, Trash Dog Actual, Delaney and Jack McBride, Michael Lassen, Michael Matuzak, Keith B., A Quack a Day, Jake Martin, Mike Caniff, Kugel, and many more. As always, thank you all for your support over on Patreon. It helps out in a lot of different ways, and it means a whole lot to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to reiterate again, this game, Golden Sun, is on the podcast because it won one of the monthly Patreon polls, and there will be a new poll coming up at the beginning of September. All paid patrons can vote, so if that sounds cool to you, head on over to patreon.com/realdavejackson, check out the tiers, check out the rewards, and I thank you for doing that. So with all that being said, let's get back to full spoiler time for Golden Sun. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time for Golden Sun, and a couple of disclaimers like we always do before we get into it. Number one, we're not going to go in a linear walk through Golden Sun, so if you're halfway through it, probably going to spoil stuff from the end of the game soon-ish. So this is full spoilers. And then number two, we're not going to talk about everything that happens in here. It's just I have some questions I want to talk about, not necessarily specific plot points, or if you thought this town is super cool, we might not talk about it. And that's not really ever what this show is in general. The other thing is we are going to talk about the Lost Age, but we're not going to spoil what happens. But I have a lot of questions about Golden Sun set this up. Does the Lost Age pay it off? And we won't get into too many specifics, but we are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I want to be able to, at least by the end of this section, set up the first couple hours of the Lost Age for you,
right,
because the premise is in all the promo materials. If you watch a trailer for the Lost Age, well, I take that back. The trailer for The Lost Age has a chandelier dragon flying around an opera, which really doesn't have that much to do with the game. Don't watch the trailer. But like if you look at the box of The Lost Age, you understand kind of what I'm going to talk about. So
well, and also like this game ends and The Lost Age begins right after that. So it's like set up for The Lost Age is the ending of this game, right?
Yes.
So I think that's
we'll talk a little bit about that and then some broad strokes of what happens in The Lost Age, but nothing spoilery.
Okay. So my main question for you is I started to get the feeling throughout Golden Sun that like if this story was about anything like thematically, like is it trying to tell me something with the story other than just going on an adventure to save the world? I got the feeling that it was setting up that we are wrong about alchemy and that Saturos and Minardi are correct, that lighting these lighthouses, maybe not their methods because they're assholes, but like lighting the lighthouses needs to happen. And like later in the game, Felix is still with them and is like super on board with their plan late in the game. So that was my main thing that I thought that this was setting up, again, to be continued, but that like we are following what we've been taught as the protectors of the secret in this village. And I feel like evidence is mounting that it's actually that these lighthouses should be lit and the power should be released. Yeah, that's just a feeling I got. I don't know how true that is or how in line that is.
No, I mean, you nailed it. That is exactly what it's doing. And I think, I mean, you wrote in the show doc the question, what is this game about? And I had never thought about that before, funnily enough. Like the idea of it just being sort of a fun adventure. Like I never thought deeply about what Golden Sun is thematically and like narratively about, apart from just like sort of the plot points of going on an adventure. But you're correct. Golden Sun by itself is absolutely a game where by the end of it, you are supposed to be sort of thinking about what it means to believe something is true and what it means to believe that something is good and right. And Golden Sun doesn't really give you any resolution to that. You were supposed to end that game with questions about who the various powers in the world, whether they are a floating rock with an eye that's supposed to be all wise and all knowing, or your town elders or your parents, like are the things they are telling you really true? Are they part of the truth? But then also you're supposed to like not be fully on board with the opposite of that, right? Because the Saturos and Minardi, at the end of the game, they kidnap somebody. They kidnap Sheba, who's this young girl who's just sort of around. Weird plot point. Why is she here? Who is she? No idea. They're talking about like some rod. There's a bunch of nonsense that gets dropped at the end that makes no sense. So they kidnap somebody. They do a lot of murders. There's a section towards the end of the game, a couple sections actually, where you just sort of walk through these paths of dead bodies.
Yep. And
if you talk to them, like some of them are just dead and some of them kind of like say, they attacked the lighthouse, and then they fade away, supposed to die. So they're clearly doing evil things. Like they're not the good guys. It's not that clear cut. But there is something to what they are saying. You just don't know what. And you've gone through this whole game, or I was kind of mentioning this in the first half, where you've seen both sides of alchemy. You've seen its terrible destruction. You've seen the way it can flood these towns or spring up these evil forests out of nowhere. But you've also seen it do incredible things. Like it seemingly has made this one guy in Tolby immortal. That's kind of crazy. It has the power to like what else? Faisy, the character that you meet in the temple. Lama Temple. She suddenly has the power to predict the future, and she's using it to save like the whole town. Everybody is like, what are you doing? And she says, my friend is in trouble. I gotta go help him. And they're like, how do you know? He's just on a trip. Like, what are you talking about? And then it turns out she's right, because she has this power of prophecy now. And you go and save, like this kid's life is saved as a result of this power. And so the whole game is this set of contrasts between the power of alchemy used for good, including what you were doing as the heroes trying to save the world, and the power of alchemy as destructive. And so you're supposed to walk out of the end of the game questioning what you've been taught, but not fully sure. Like it doesn't seem to be black and white. Right. And that's I think what it's doing. I don't think it's doing anything deeper than that. I mean, to answer the question I think that is coming, the Lost Age resolves that, right? Like the Lost Age is the answer to that. Is now I guess a good time to sort of tell you the twist of the start of the Lost Age?
Yeah, so
which I think follows directly from this.
right. So to set up, at the end of this game, you catch up with Saturos and Minardi at the second lighthouse. You fight them. They transform into like a double. They fuse together and become a dragon. That's the final boss of this game. You fight them. The lighthouse collapses. People fall into the sea, and then like it kind of shows. I wrote it down in the notes somewhere, but it's down here somewhere. Sheba, the girl who could just she's an adept who just happened to be in that town, and they were like, "Hey, we need an adept to activate the lighthouse," and they just like grab her and take her up there.
So there's 4 elemental lighthouses. Yeah. In order to light all 4 of them, they need 1 adept of each element. They need Alex for water. They have Felix for the earth lighthouse. Saturos and Minardi are fire. They don't have a wind adept with them. Right. So they kidnapped her to use her.
Right. So she and Felix, as she falls off the lighthouse, Felix jumps off to try and save her. They wash up on this island out in the ocean where Jenna and Creighton and Alex, I wrote in the notes someone named Alex because I'd totally forgotten who Alex was at this point in the game. But they're out on this island. So the game ends with they're on this island. Isaac and Garrett and Ivan and Mia are trying to find them.
They've gotten a hold of a ship and they're setting sail.
Off screen, they search and can't find them. And so they regroup and they're like, we're going to go out and try and find them again. And that's the end of Golden Sun is like setting up. We're going to visit new places. We have the characters that we know about are now in 2 separate places. So that's where I know this game lets off. And then the Lost Age picks up right after that.
So in the Lost Age, you do not see Isaac, Garrett, Ivan, and Mia for a very long time.
Okay.
You will have noticed that on this island, which is, by the way, like an actively moving floating island, because when Venus Lighthouse collapsed, it caused a bunch of earthquakes. And you thought Mount Aleph erupting was bad. Boy, this screwed up the world, as you will see. So you're on this island that's like rapidly floating towards this other continent. And you will notice you have an earth adept, a fire adept, a wind adept, and a water adept all there. There's your party. So Felix is the main character of Golden Sun, The Lost Age. He is joined by Jenna in the role of the fire adept. Sheba is the wind adept. And Alex is an asshole. He doesn't come with you. He just leaves. You do eventually get a water adept later. It's some guy named Piers. There's no reason you need it. He's just a new character. Whatever. He's just a guy. He's important, but for other reasons. Anyway.
Now I know what you mean. I'm thinking of the Lost Age box art in my head, and I was like, that guy didn't look very much like Isaac. Okay.
Nope, that's Felix. There he is.
That's why.
So that's where you pick up. And what happens is this island that they're on crashes into another continent, the continent of Indra. And that is the Lost Age. You exploring everything else in the world of Weyard. You start on the continent of Indra. You move to a second continent of Oceania. You end up eventually getting a hold of a ship. There's a whole portion where you're sailing around the actual ocean. You can see places you've been to in the first Golden Sun, even though you can't access any of the old locations. There's no revisiting or anything like that. There's a bunch of island chains you can visit. You spend a good chunk of the game trying to access the other side of the map. Jupiter Lighthouse doesn't happen until like 2/3 of the way through the game because it's on the other side. And because all the continents got like smashed together, you're blocked off from getting over there. And so you're basically trying to find the synergy you need to get over there. And then the second half of the game is Jupiter Lighthouse and Mars Lighthouse, the final one. And that's all in the second, like, side of the ocean that has 2 other continents, Attica and Hesperia. There's a whole southern continent called Tundaria that has a dungeon that you're supposed to do. There's a northern continent, Prox, which is home of the fire adepts, Saturos and Minardi. But that's the Lost Age. It's a massive expansion of what Golden Sun is. But to pull it back to the point that I'm trying to make here, you've been questioning everything that you've been taught in Golden Sun. Golden Sun, The Lost Age switches your perspective. And it puts you in the shoes of effectively the villains, Felix, Jenna, and Sheba, who are, as you learn very quickly, all on board, including Jenna, who was kidnapped at the beginning of Golden Sun, and Sheba, who is just a freaking bystander. Everybody's on board with the mission to light the lighthouses. And so your goal in the Lost Age is the opposite. You're not trying to stop people from lighting them. You are actively trying to go do it. And you have Alex, so Saturos and Minardi die at the end of Golden Sun. You have Alex, who's still like sort of the final keeper of that mission, who's kind of goading you on. You still don't really know why he's doing it, and you will not find out till the end. There are 2 new fire adepts, Agitio and Karst, who are basically like Saturos and Minardi stand-ins. way less interesting than Satoru Minardi, frankly. It's just like we have Satoru Minardi at home kind of things. But they're basically showed up from Satoru Minardi's hometown to be like, hey, why aren't these lighthouses lit yet? What's going on? I'm sorry, you killed Satoru Minardi? Excuse me? Like, it's that kind of thing. And then the other part of the setup is that you keep hearing as you travel through the world rumors of Isaac's party who are pursuing you, and you don't see them, but you hear about them. Like, you visit towns, they're like, yeah, these other guys just came through here. You even meet, there's a very convoluted process to transfer your save data from Golden Sun to the Lost Age. And if you've done a bunch of different side quests, if you won Colosso, if you go back and do a cutscene with the bandits from Vault, if you do all these like extra things, then there's different events that will happen throughout the world of the Lost Age where people will make reference to Isaac's party. Like the Colosso one I remember specifically because if Isaac wins Colosso in Golden Sun, you can meet a guy who he beat to win Colosso in this one town. He's like, yeah, this guy named Isaac kicked my ass. And he gives you an item. And there's all this stuff like that. So yeah, the Lost Age is the flip perspective. And it's the understanding why that party was doing what they were doing. And then the attempt to reconcile the danger of bringing back alchemy with what you eventually learn is the necessity of doing so.
Yeah, I had gotten on that like train of thought because of Felix's story in Golden Sun. The fact that he's kidnapped by them, as far as we know, or like taken in, but like, you know, he's going along with kidnapping other people. He's going along with, you know, killing people along the way, but he's on board with all of this. There's too many scenes in this where Felix could tell you why, and he just refuses to. I hate that, especially when like it's like it's your brother. Like you wouldn't tell like your sister why you're going with these people, like stuff like that. They
do sort of try to address that in the Lost Age.
Okay.
Like there is a point where someone's like, why didn't we just talk about this? And it's not a satisfying answer, really.
Yeah. It's a trope that really bothers me, but it's something that I see enough where it's like, that's not going to make or break a story. It's just something where it's like, hey, come on. But the fact that Felix is on board with it was what made me think like, actually, maybe he learned that what they're doing is probably, they consider it to be the right thing. And it was compelling enough that he was like, actually, this is the right thing. Yeah. And then I guess to know later on that Jenna and Creighton are on board with it too.
Yeah, Creighton is with you. He doesn't fight, but this is maybe going back to another complaint you had. I find this set of characters to be like 10% more compelling than the first group. Felix is still a silent protagonist. It's actually sort of funny. Felix talks in Golden Sun and Isaac does not because he's a silent protagonist. No. Felix is a silent protagonist of Golden Sun too. And you do at some point meet Isaac and Isaac does talk. He has a personality now. It's kind of wild.
Always had it in him.
It's very weird. He actually talks a significant amount because he's the party leader, and I don't understand what happened. But Jenna is a more interesting character, I think, than Garrett, certainly. I find Shiva to be somewhat interesting and Piers to be somewhat interesting. Creighton honestly kind of steals the show because he's sort of a silly old man. So the fact that he's not fighting with you, but he's in all the cutscenes talking. I also do think they somewhat cut down on the everybody has to have a reaction to this thing. I mean, it's still kind of there, but I feel like the dialogue is a little more. There's not less of it, but the dialogue that is there is a little more relevant at all times, I guess I'll say.
That's good. So that was my main thing was like, and I also want to be clear, like if this was just kind of like just an adventure, you know, not super deep thematically, like that's not inherently bad.
Right.
It was just, I was thinking about what to talk about in here. And I was like, what is the game trying to say? And we eventually landed on, you know, that whole shifting of perspectives and how we just assume that we're doing the right thing because we're told that it's the right thing at the start of the game. And Isaac grew up in the town where that's what they do. And they're taught that this is their purpose. And it turns out that maybe they shouldn't have been doing that. So
yeah, I'll say the Lost Age continues those themes pretty well. I think for the majority of I'd say the first half of the Lost Age, you are doing this for one reason, and then partway through the Lost Age, you meet some characters and you learn some information that raises the stakes significantly. and
Okay.
gives them a secondary, or I guess primary, in addition to their secondary motivation for doing this. And so again, it plays a lot with that tension, and I think it continues sort of the theme that I liked in Golden Sun of, oh, you see these ruined towns, but you also see the power of alchemy. It does that on a much grander scale because the world is enormous. Like it is so big for that time, certainly, but even now I find the world to be quite big. There's so many more side quests. There's all these optional areas you can go to. The dungeons are bigger. The puzzles are more complicated significantly, I think. I mean, there's still a lot of like just sort of push the block, but there are several if you played The Lost Age, Ayers Rock, let's go. That's a
Okay,
hell of a
fair. I was
dungeon.
gonna say,
What a monster.
we're not just pushing the block; we're pushing 2 blocks. But
No, we're
well,
blowing the blocks around with all sorts of whirlwinds and
Okay.
throwing them all over the place and riding through the sky. It's all over the place.
all right.
But there's a lot more increasingly dramatic examples of both the power of alchemy to help and the power of alchemy to destroy. And
Yeah.
like that is sort of where it is going, is ultimately what do we do when we don't have black and white answers as to what the right thing is.
Yeah, one of the other things we mentioned before, but the fact that like when you light that lighthouse, it heals, like it brings the healing water back, and that town that was diseased is fine now. Like everyone's going to be okay because you lit the lighthouse, the
Yeah.
thing that you were trying to prevent. So yeah, this is turned into a little bit of Dave starts to change course about maybe playing the Lost Age someday. There's going to be a long cooling down period,
Sure.
I want to say, before I'll really consider it, but you're making it sound a lot more appealing, at least story wise.
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's some things that you'll still hate. Like, I mean, I think they improve like at least a few percent on every issue that you have with Golden Sun, and on some of them they improve significantly. I think the sort of, I mentioned this in the first half, but I think the sort of pushing you into using the battle system by messing with your Djinn composition and also giving you more different kinds of summons, and also offering tons of optional summons that you can go find. There's so much more optional content in the Lost Age. It's really awesome. There's multiple optional dungeons, multiple optional bosses, like all sorts of cool stuff you can find if you dig, and that's really fun. But because all that stuff is there, I think it encourages you to play with the battle system significantly more. There's a lot more really hard battles. Like there's several super bosses, which is really great. I think the final fight is extremely difficult and extremely fun. There's a Deadbeard in Crossbone Isle isn't so bad compared to the final hardest secret boss of the Lost Age, who,
Nice.
by the way, you need all the Djinn in the game to get. And in order to get all the Djinn in the game, you also have to have all the Djinn from Golden Sun.
I did hear that, yeah.
Yeah, it does this fun thing where you're allowed one of each element to have missed. So when you transfer your data, if you have all the Djinn, they don't directly come over to Felix and party, but you will have access to them later. If you missed up to one of each element, you can find them in special spots on the overworld of the Lost Age, like whichever one you're missing. But if you missed more than one, you're just locked out of the super boss of the Lost Age. So that's fun.
You know, for as fuck Golden Sun as I was when right when I finished the game, I did port my save data, like,
yeah,
and I did do that, and I took a screenshot of the big ass password that you have to type in.
Yep. It sucks.
So I have it on my Switch. If I do go ahead and do that. One of the things, like in this like kind of arc where I'm now bending towards maybe playing the Lost Age someday, one of the big things I didn't like about Golden Sun is like that plot basically didn't resolve anything that it opened up. And so, the idea that the Lost Age is going to close all of those loops is appealing. Like there was we talked about, the big story and who's right and who's doing the right thing and stuff like that. There's also like that one weird scene with Ivan and that woman. I think it was in the the
Ivan and
temple.
Hamma, yeah, that's
Yeah.
resolved.
Where she like sees something special about Ivan and then gets like really freaked out and like doesn't want to talk about it, and you just have to leave because she's
Yeah.
like, or either she or someone in your party is like, we should just go, just get out of here. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And then never mentioned again throughout Golden Sun. And that's one of the things that's like really frustrating going through it and be like, what about that thing? But then kind of playing through it and seeing like, I had always heard, there's a second half of it, but literally seeing that it's not one story arc that ends and then the next one starts. It's just cut in the middle, basically. So that was stuff that was like intriguing, but ultimately frustrating about Golden Sun.
I will bag on the Lost Age a little bit. There are some plots that I think resolve in a really satisfying way. Like I mentioned at the beginning of Golden Sun, you get the Mars elemental star as Isaac, and it goes into a little bag, and you have it in your inventory the whole game. The fact that Isaac still has it in his inventory becomes like relevant by the end of the game, and I think it's really cool that came full circle. On a plot that I do not care for, Ivan has in his possession a weapon called the Shaman's Rod throughout Golden Sun that he again has on him at the end of the game, and there's like this sort of weird conversation at the lighthouse where they're like, oh, the Rod of Hesperia, hand it over, and it's very odd. But in that moment, Ivan hands it off to Felix, and then Felix has it in his inventory at the start of the Lost Age. They do make that relevant. It's stupid. I feel like they thought that was a good idea and then forgot that they had to do it and then shoehorn it in at the end. It's actually not very good. So there's some plots that are not resolved very well. I'm trying to think of some others. There's this whole thing with Babby. So he's the lord of Tolby. He's this very wealthy man who also seems to never age mysteriously. And you find out in Golden Sun that this is because he once visited a mysterious land called Lemuria and got this draught that gives him eternal life as long as he keeps drinking it. And then at the end of the game, he charges Isaac and his friends to go find Lemuria. Isaac and his friends, you don't know what they're up to. Who knows? But Felix and company are aware of Lemuria, and at some point that becomes relevant. So that's kind of a cool thing that comes back. There's also, like I mentioned in the first half, at one point there's one NPC who mentions in Gondwan there's like a village across the river. Oh, I wonder what those guys are doing. And then you end up visiting, like you're on the other side of the continent of Gondwan, so you can see like some places you've been to in the past kind of across the river in the mountains, but you're on the other side and you're doing like different stuff. It's really cool. There's also another town. You don't really go back to Angara, the first continent, except there's one town towards the very end of the game that you can sail up to and park your boat and go in, and then you can just see over the mountains. You can see Mount Aleph, and it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of little things like that.
Yeah. This conversation has been pretty enlightening to me about just how much this game is set up for the Lost Age.
Yeah.
And like I knew that, and people told me, and I experienced the first half and like all of those, like I've mentioned, the frustrations I had with it, everything that was unresolved, all the other reasons why I didn't like playing this. But hearing about like how the Lost Age picks up on those loose threads or just continues those threads, and the shifting perspective also sounds interesting. So I think that's probably, it's weird, but that feels like the most interesting way to talk about the story of this game is to talk about how it connects to the next game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I will just sort of caution you, like Golden Sun: The Lost Age is still Golden Sun. Like it is still it does not change anything fundamental about Golden Sun. I think it improves on everything, like at least a little bit, in some cases a lot of bit, but you are still playing the same game. So if you are not on board at least with some elements of what Golden Sun is selling, then you're not going to dig the Lost Age, and it's not worth continuing. Like you do have to be, the dungeons are very similar. They're just more complicated, and more like the puzzles are a little more elaborate. There are more different kinds of utility synergy you can kind of use. A lot of them are kind of boring. Like one of the ones you get very early on in the Lost Age that I think is very stupid is called Lash, and it is a very specific use case when there is a nail on one side and a nail on the other and a rope, and you pull the rope across the gap, and it is never used in any way that is remotely clever at all.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, like that stuff is still there. But I do think there is just a lot more, like Golden Sun: The Lost Age is like the game they wanted to make, but they had to go make Golden Sun first to get there. it's kind of odd.
I mean, people do learn as they
Yeah.
make things and stuff.
Yeah.
It does feel like I am a lot more interested in The Lost Age now than I was 2.5 hours ago,
Yeah.
with the caveat being that I think it will still be some, to some degree, like the dead dove thing from Arrested Development. If I do actually play it, I
Yeah.
open up the bag and there is Golden Sun inside, you know?
Yeah. It was Golden Sun all along.
Yeah, but I am more interested. Definitely appreciate you like talking about how these things connect to the next game, and like, because it is so just set up, really. I at least need to know a little bit about like what is it setting up, you know,
Yeah.
without details. So,
Yeah. And I think like in the context too of how these games were originally released, like the way I experienced this as a young person is I played Golden Sun, when I did 2001, whatever that was,
mhm.
too. I don't remember. I probably played it in 2002. And like it ends on that cliffhanger. And in that immediate moment, you're like, wait, what happens next? Oh my God. What's going to happen to all of them? Am I ever going to find out? Is there going to be a sequel? What's going on? And then like immediately afterward they announced The Lost Age and it's coming out next year. And so you have that anticipation, that year of waiting to see what's going to happen next, and that time to go on a forum and discuss this game with people and get like really hyped up about it and have all these different theories, and then the game comes out and then you have the answers to those questions, and it's such a big game compared to Golden Sun that like you have a lot more time to digest and explore and like really enjoy. And so I think like in the moment the feeling around Golden Sun is very different than now, when it's just sort of like a little more disconnected, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, it has the potential to be seamless because you could just play it and pick up the next one right after it if you wanted to, especially with NSO. If you played one, you already paid for the other, so go ahead and play it.
Yeah.
It's I just, I've said it before, but I just wish that this game had more of a self-contained story. But it does sound like The Lost Age picks up with enough of a shift that like they may feel like distinct things once you've played both of them or gotten into the second one. I don't know, but yeah.
Elements of them blur together, I think, for me.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, but I think what it does is it works in Golden Sun's benefit rather than to the Lost Age's detriment. Like a lot of
Okay.
the things I love about the Lost Age, I sort of think about Golden Sun and I start thinking about them and I'm like, wait, no, that wasn't in that game.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess The Lost Age also gets the benefit of paying off all those things that you were waiting
Yes.
for from the first game. So,
Yes, and I think generally does a good. I mean, again, some of the plots are sort of stupid, but like I think it does a good job of resolving everything.
okay.
I guess I'll just throw out there, since we haven't really mentioned it. The Lost Age does resolve almost everything. It leaves one very deliberate loose thread in sort of like a final cutscene that's like, wait, but what happened to this? Tease. And for years and years, the fan community waited and waited and waited, wondering what would happen. And then we got Dark Dawn, which, hey, that game sucks. I'm sorry. Don't ever invite me on to play that. That's
I
not.
don't,
You don't like Golden Sun. You're really not gonna like Dark Dawn. It's
I'm
like
not, yeah.
Golden Sun, but every time anyone talks, they have an encyclopedia entry that you have to click on for like every single thing to like understand what it's about. And all the characters are the children of the main cast, and they're all just carbon copies of them.
I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
It's not
so,
good. It's not a
yeah.
good game. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well,
It also, Dark Dawn also ends on a cliffhanger, and I never want to know what is happening. I don't care.
Just
don't,
let it die. Yep.
Just, it's fine. You don't know how to make these anymore. It's fine.
Yep. Well, fair enough. I think that's all I have for the spoilers of Golden Sun. And yeah, interesting that the conversation spoilers with Golden Sun focused more on setting up the next
Lost
game,
Age.
but that's what Golden Sun is. So
I really quick, I can throw out like a couple other things that I guess are in spoiler territory that I like about Golden Sun.
Sure.
I've alluded to it multiple times. Golden Sun has a lot of like little hidden things in it that are very small, and I think I only know about them because I've spent so much time in that community. But I think they're kind of cool. Just like a lot of tidbits, stuff like if you cast the spell Reveal, which is normally used to like find hidden things in circles of like rocks and whatever. If you cast it in like a room, you'll occasionally see things glittering in pots, and that's how you find hidden items.
Okay.
I always thought that was really cool. There's a let's see. There is this I've alluded to it. There's this island called Crossbone Isle that is basically the one optional dungeon in that game, and there's two ways to get there. One, I assume, is the way you took, which is in the Suhala Desert. You hop into a pink tornado.
Yes.
It's the tornado that if you use Douse on it, you fight the boss of that area. But if you don't, if you just let it fly you away, it'll take you to Crossbone Island, and it's the hardest dungeon in the game. It's got some pretty hard regular enemy encounters, and then the super boss Deadbeard at the bottom, who you get a bunch of cursed armor for beating him, and I hate the cursed armor, so it's kind of worthless. But
I just gave it all to Garrett. Garrett
yes,
wore
you
every
give it to
piece
Garrett.
of
That's what you
cursed
do.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not using spells anyway. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But the other way to get there is to when you're on the ship from Caelid to Tolby to get a very specific setup of rowers going. And I remember like the combo because I read the guide so many times. It's like the punk guy with the long hair and the balding man is second, and then you get the chef, and then you get the old man, and that's the order you do them. And I think there's a couple other orders you can do, but they take you to Crossbone Isle, and the crew is like, where are we? Oh no, what'll we do? And you can explore the island a little bit. You can't finish it at that time because you don't have the right synergy to do it. You need to get I think you need Cloak, which you don't get till you do Babby's stuff. But yeah, like it's just weird. It's cool because you can sort of accidentally stumble upon it by picking the wrong rowers. Did you ever go back to Lunpa?
Maybe.
That might be the Djinn you're missing, Ginny.
Maybe.
The Thief Town. Did you do the cloak dungeon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I like. You get it's a plot. It's one of the plot points that Golden Sun sets up very early on that actually you resolve. Within Golden
someone
Sun.
got kidnapped in there. Yeah.
Yeah, Ivan's I guess like mentor master, he's like his apprentice or something, gets kidnapped in the Thief Town. And it's like you can go to Lunp at the very beginning of the game, but you just get kicked out immediately because it's like a thief town and they don't want you there. But if you get all the way through the game, you pick up the cloak ball from Babby and you learn the spell that makes you invisible. You can go all the way back by running all the way around the Caragol Sea and all the way up the bridge and get back to Lunpa, and then you can use the invisibility spell to sneak into the fortress, beat up the guy who kidnapped him, rescue him, and you get a Djinn out of that as well. And I think that's cool. I think that you can resolve that, and it's neat.
I thought that was required.
Nope. The only thing you get is tonic the Djinn.
Yeah, fair enough.
You just abandon Hammett to die. It's fine.
Yeah. You reminded me. I hated that sequence on the boat with the rowers.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's when I talked about pacing, that was just brutal. Like if I could have just skipped forward and just be like, fuck it. If they say something important, I'll miss it. If I could have skipped it, I would have, but yeah, not great. Yeah.
I like that. There's like a few other just like little things like that that are just sort of scattered around. Like the fact that you can basically sort of guess and skip your way. Like if you don't get the Force Gem, you can sort of just guess your way through Mogal Forest, and the game lets you do that. The other thing I mentioned at the beginning of the game is, so typically the way you play through is you start in Vale, you go to Vault, and then you go to Bilibin and get the keys to go to Kalima, which is the town with the people who got turned into trees. Mm-hmm. But from Bilibin, so the guy who runs Bilibin is like, sorry, I'm not going to let you through the gate. Too bad. But his gate is just made up of a bunch of boxes and you can just push them aside.
Yeah.
But if for some reason you're confused by that or that deters you, the other path that is open to you is you can just go north to a mill and you can do Mercury Lighthouse early. And you can get Mia before you go to the Tree City. And it's totally worthless to do this. I don't recommend it. You'll be overpowered for Kalima Forest, which is fine, but the Saturos fight at the top of Mercury Lighthouse is hell because you're underleveled. So, but it's weird. Like there's a lot of little things like that the game lets you do for no particular reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that's cool. I think it makes the world feel like more real to me. because it's not that there's consequences for my actions so much as that I am able to do things. Nobody is stopping me. It's not like this there's not like an invisible wall there that's saying, sorry, Isaac, you can't go there yet. Like, there's none of that. If you can physically reach it and you have the magic power to get there, you can get there. And the Lost Age is similar. When you first get the boat in the Lost Age, there's a ton of game open to you that you can, like, you're given a very loose direction of, hey, we need to collect the 3 MacGuffins to do this. Actually, you're not even really given that. You're just kind of said, hey, we got to figure this out. Let's go for it. And you just sort of start hitting up islands until you start getting clues as to what you're actually supposed to be doing. And some people might hate that. I love it. I think it's cool.
Having that openness is cool. It's just, I think it depends. Do you need to be guided through the adventure, or are you cool with wandering until you find stuff? I agree with you that being able to go to those places like seemingly out of order, or being able to go there even though there's nothing quite, no real reason for you to be there yet, just makes it feel a little bit less artificial, a little bit less, there's a guy blocking the bridge and he won't leave until you give him a drink type of deal. And you can only get the drink in this town, like that type of artificial gating, which is, necessary sometimes, but fuck it. Let him go there. If it's too hard, they'll turn around and they'll go back. So, well, it's been a lot of fun talking about Golden Sun with you. It's a game I wish I liked more, but I had a good time talking about it for sure. And definitely appreciate the expertise that you brought to the conversation, both with this game and the next game. And we won't talk about the third one. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been really, really good to do this. I love Golden Sun. I'll show up and talk about it any day of the week as long as it's not Dark Dawn. Ask me anything about Golden Sun anytime. Let me know if you played The Lost Age.
There we go. Yeah, you'll probably be one of the first people to know if I end up playing the second game. So
please.
Again, definitely appreciate you giving me the time to come back on the show, talk about Golden Sun with me. For everyone else who's still here at the end, I'll remind you one more time to check down in the show notes for all of Reb's work over at Kotaku. Investigative journalism, reviews, creative writing, all kinds of stuff going on over there. Check that stuff out. It's well worth your time. And for everyone who's here at the end, you are my hero. As always, tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
Hey all, this is Doug from Core Gaming, one of, if not the biggest independently owned retro and modern game stores in New England and nationwide at coregamingnh.com. We have over 40,000 items in stock ranging from Atari to Switch 2 and everything in between, as well as manuals, empty boxes, old magazines like Nintendo Power, trading cards, dice, collectibles, 2,000 Funko Pops, and more. We've been around for about 15 years and we're opening our third physical location soon. And because you've made the same smart choice as me listening to Dave on Tales from the Backlog, you can use the coupon code BACKLOG and to get 10% off any purchase of any item anytime at coregamingnh, like newhampshire.com. Thanks for listening to me talk about my favorite store, and now you can get back to listening to podcasts about my favorite thing, video games.
Hey everyone, my name's Darren Hupke. I'm a writer, publisher, and podcaster. My podcast is called Pixels and Polygons. Each week I sit down with a guest and ask one simple video game question. It's a random topic each week and it leads to a fun conversation. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform every Friday, and you can read more about it at pixelsandpolygons.net.